Hello and welcome to ThursdAI. If you wonder what happened to me, it's not Alex here. It's Wolfram Ravenwolf and the crew, because Alex is on his well-deserved vacation, though this is, as far as I know, the first episode without Alex. So we do our best because we can't replace him, but we will try to make it a good episode anyway. A great episode, of course. So, and to get some backup, I recruited more, some guests, and the crew as usual. LDJ, Nisten, and Jason Neen is here, and he disappeared. Wait, adding him back to the stage. Here's Rishi, and I think we'll have to check first if the X Space that we are streaming to as well is hearing us as well. So is Nisten, you are on the X Space as well. Is this audio going there as well?
No, it's muted. It shows up as muted in there.
Okay, let's see if this works now. The audio.
There's also like a 20-second delay or so on the X Space.
So yeah, that is probably normal.
Takes a little
I've
bit
had that as well.
Okay, it's good.
It's working, yeah, great. So I will hide my mobile phone to prevent any echo. So the question is, can the people on X hear you guys as well? So can you try to speak to them and we can get some thumbs up if it's working?
I don't think they can hear us.
Hello.
Yeah.
Someone did a thumbs up.
No, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they can hear the rest.
Yeah, so it seems like Wolfram, you are audible in all of the streams and spaces, or the space in the two streams. But I guess what Nisten is saying is that we are, like the other people in this conversation aren't audible in it.
Yeah, it can't hear the rest of us, but it is what it is. At least we have something.
So, okay. But I heard you on the stream. Is it possible to hear Nisten and the other guests here? Jason, for example?
Hello.
Can you guys on X hear them? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear the guests and the co-hosts?
Hello.
I guess to clarify, I think Nisten was saying that the guests aren't audible on the space, but they probably are audible on the streams.
Yeah, so the question is...
You're muted now,
Alex,
by the way.
Oh, Alex is here. Hey, Alex. So he's here, but apparently the guests are not audible. That is, of course, a pity. But I thought it was working. Can you speak a little more, Nisten? Because I heard you.
I am monitoring the situation, and I have AirPods under my headphones. They cannot hear us.
ABCD 1 2 3.
It's when you said that, it sounded like it was from a movie.
Yeah, I specifically set up something to stream the audio from my MacBook to my phone, so it could go in there. But the question is if that is a setting I have to pick on the phone, or if we just have to go with that they can hear me, and we go video, or we can just paraphrase if you're saying something. At least YouTube is working, so for everybody on X, it would be great if you could join the video stream as well. Otherwise, I will try to tell you what the people are saying here. And since we are going to look at some cool stuff as well, it would be even better if you go to the YouTube link. Okay. In that case, I would say we are finally getting started for real and taking a look at the TLDR. What is on our list for today, because there is a lot again, and some really cool news, some stuff I'm very excited about. And before we get started with the actual show, as always, we will just go over the topics that have been collected. We can add additional topics, and if anyone has something to add, just let us know. Okay, here we go. So first, open source LLMs. Here we have Mistral Small 3.2 has been released, which is an open weights model by Mistral, and a new version, minor version actually, which is supposed to be better at instruction following and have less repetition. So that is an open model release that I'm excited about. Then we have Kimi VLA3B Thinking 2506, which is a multimodal reasoning model for vision, just 3B active parameters, and it's on Hugging Face, of course. So a new release by Moonshot Kimi, who also brought the coding model, which we talked about last time. Then we have StreamOmni, which is an any-to-any model, so an Omni model for multimodal input, text, vision, and speech. And it's by a Chinese Academy of Science. Then we also have the big company stuff now, which is also a really big release of Gemini CLI. So basically the Claude code pendant by Google. And this is a big topic we have to talk about. I'm pretty sure that is one of the biggest and most important releases this week. Then we have also some not so good news from Google about reducing the free tiers of their Flash model that has been reduced. And the free times in that regard have been reduced, but there is a good reason for that, of course, which will cover that. They also released Search Live with Voice, in the US at least. And Anthropic is also in the news, especially because of the books they scanned and that a judge ruled that is fair use, which is very, very important news for AI in general. Then we have XAI with the launch of Robotaxi. I think that is also a good thing to talk about. And Microsoft also released an Mu language model for the Windows settings agent. Meta is acquiring stuff after the Llama release wasn't making the waves we saw or expected. So they are going in other directions. And OpenAI, well, they didn't release the local model we are waiting for now. There are rumors about it, that it's really good. But of course, rumors don't matter. We want to see the actual model. And something we don't see is that their Jony Ive IO acquisition and the hardware they were going to release has been purged from the site because they have been sued by AIOS, another company that we can quickly cover maybe. And moving on to vision and video, there's Maygen's Multitalk, which is a system that lets AI avatars, multiple avatars even, talk. So that is, think of Notebook LM, but with video. Very excited about it, actually. And there's Video Prism, which is a classifier for video embedding. So you can generate video embeddings and use it for classifier, video retrieval, localization, stuff like that. We also have 11 Labs' release of a personal voice assistant, which supports MCP, so can actually do stuff. 11 AI, that is also an interesting release. And Magenta Real Time is from Google Research, music generation model capable of real-time audio generation, like a DJ that is changing the stuff. That's also very interesting and exciting. 11 Labs also released a mobile app, but we'll see if we can cover that. There's also Image Gen 4 and 4 Ultra from Google. They are on a roll. It's almost a Google week, I think. So they did a real lot of stuff. And Omni Gen 2 is also out, which is open weights. And it's something like FluxContext, but finally open weights release that we can use. And also there are some other tools we can cover, like OpenMemory Chrome extension, which takes memory, similar to what ChatGPT was doing, and you can inject it in all the systems you are using, like Gemini or Anthropic, Claude, or I'm not sure, maybe even Perplexity. Yeah, Perplexity is supported as well. So that is also interesting, offering new possibilities. And LM Studio also supports MCP now. I think that's noteworthy. Plus, cursor has now integration in Slack, like an agent, so you can mention it. And a couple of other coding agents like OpenHand CLI and Warp 2.0, the agentic development environment, were also released. So let's see if we can cover those as well a little. And then there was some trouble on our local llama, the Reddit, where I originally got known for my evaluations and posts. So the old mod removed themselves and set everything on auto delete. So for 2 days, there could be no new posts. Now there's a new mod. And yeah, we'll see if that revives the Reddit system. And finally, something we didn't get to last time, there is Andrew Karpathy's Software is Changing talk at Y Combinator. Software 3.0. That is something we had on the agenda for last time. It's an interesting, very interesting talk, and it would be cool if we could discuss it this time. Yeah, that's a rundown of everything we have planned for today. Let's see where we get to. And I'm very happy to have some guests here. So before we get started with the stuff, I would think it's a good time to introduce yourselves. So maybe you could start.
I'm still here, by the way. I'm Nisten. I'm just on the Twitter space because I restarted the new setup. So everybody, let's go.
Okay, Nisten is on Twitter, on X, and doing this there. Okay, great. So, okay, Jason, maybe you go first and introduce yourself so everybody knows who the guests are.
Sure. So I'm Jason Neen. I'm an AI developer. I'm into all kinds of things like MCPs, agents, coding solutions, building out coding, a coding team based on AI, development tools, open source, and basically building anything and everything with AI.
Great. Nice to have you on the show again. And Rishi, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
No, you got it right. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I also I think we initially got acquainted on Reddit as well, on Local Llama. I think we've had a few conversations there. But yeah, it's good to be here. Name's Rishi, run a company called Southbridge. We're focused entirely on large corpora understanding. So trying to figure out where information sits and sort of connect across broad senses, because like us humans, we never put information in the same place. So there's things related to that, things related to this thing. So how do you do that multimodally? That's what we've been working on.
Okay, great. Nice to have you. And LBJ, you are on stage as well. Nisten is on the X space, but yeah, why don't you introduce yourself again as well?
Sure. Yeah, I think Nisten maybe dropped out for a second, but yeah, my name's LDJ. I also go sometimes by Luigi, and mainly I've been working in things such as post-training and synthetic data generation for the past few years. Prior to that, I was at a company called TTS Labs, working on audio AI models, mainly for streamers in the Twitch industry. And then afterwards was on the founding team of Noose, that also, as some people might know, work on open source models and post-training and synthetic data and such.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, short note about me. I'm Wolfram Ravenwolf from Germany, working at Ellermind in Bremen. And evaluation is a big topic I'm well known for because I got into AI in 2022, and yeah, the first things after ChatGPT came out and local models, Llama was leaked. I did a lot of evaluations, testing, lots of stuff, not just the models, also prompt formats, the settings, and so on, and posted a lot on local Llama, where I got known for, and later migrated to X. And yeah, I've been co-hosting with Alex and the gang ThursdAI for a while now. And now, since Alex is on vacation, I'm running the show today, and he will be back next week. So yeah, then it will be as normal. So please excuse the technical issues we had, especially on X, and we'll still make it a great show. So let's go, and we'll start with the open source.
Open source AI. Let's get it started.
So the one thing I've been thinking about is if we should cover Google CLI on open source or if we should cover it on the big company stuff, because it's an open source coding agent, but it's done by a proprietary model. So I've put it on the Google stuff. There's a lot of this. So we will talk about this later, but it's also an open source thing. Let's start with some real open weights, which are not, which have come out now. Mistral Small 3.2, a small update to Mistral Small 3.1, which is set to improve in instruction following and have less repetition errors and improve function calling as well. So it just came out, and we can actually do this. So what I would like to do is take a look at it and show you a bit of the benchmarks and stuff. So we'll have a bit of a hands-on. Let's see. I have to share my screen, and it looks a bit different than when I was just a guest here. Let's see, where is it? How do I share my screen now? Present, it's called Present. That is why I didn't see it. Share screen. We are sharing the screen. And I will share the tab, the Mistral tab. Let's get started here. Mistral's release. So we should have the link here. There's a Hugging Face repository. Let's go there. So can you see my screen? Is it working?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, you see the Hugging Face or do you see something else?
I see X.
Ah, okay, then I have to switch.
Well, I see the Hugging Face link on X.
Okay,
oh, now I
you
see
should
Hugging
see.
Face, yep.
Okay, great. So let's take a look at it. They have some benchmarks here, and it looks like a big improvement considering the scores from 3.1 to 3.2. Is it okay with the size? So otherwise, I can zoom in a bit.
I think maybe zooming in a little bit more would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, so not a lot of benchmarks right here. Let's see what they have. MMU Pro. Yeah, that is actually something I'm always doing, the MMU Pro benchmark, because then I can check different models, different quants. And I actually already tested the model. I did 4 runs with it, and the scores were fluctuating a bit. So I can't say for sure that it is much better in this regard. But of course, you always have to benchmark and evaluate stuff on your own systems and the situations that you are using the model. So this is multimodal as well, so you can use it for vision. And yeah, it's definitely a good thing that Mistral is still updating models and releasing free stuff. And there's also the announcement that there is a large model coming soon as open source that has been hinted at. So I'm even more excited about that, of course.
Cool.
So personally, if anyone is going to run this model with GGUF, there has been a fixed version by Ansloth's team, which are always checking the models. And there was an issue with tool calling in the official GGUFs. They may have fixed it by now, but just so you know, check it if you want to use it with tool calling. You may, if you got an older version, always check if there's a newer one that may have fixed these issues. Okay, I would say we go back to us. So has anyone been using Mistral Small? Of you here?
I have
I've played around with it and a few of the others. Not done anything major with it yet. But these models are getting really impressive. The local ones, they're getting to the point where the reasoning for the reasoning models is very good. The tool use is awesome, and they're small and they're fast. And yeah, it's getting really, really interesting now, seeing how we can start, mixing these things up so that I can, I'm trying to set up something where I can have, the big models being called to do some, the big work and the big planning, and then handing over to local reasoning models and local tooling models like Mistral to actually do the work. And then if it gets, if it do the changes, if it gets a problem, scale it, back up again. So I'm hitting the paid systems as frequently as less frequently as possible, so I can save tokens. Yeah.
So basically a router which is choosing which model to call.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, and you can do it really easily now with things like if you're using Cursor, if you're using Klein, Windsurf with the workflow system, but also you can do it through MCPs. You can have an MCP that will sort of, do some basic routing for you. So yeah, there's some cool stuff you can do there.
Yeah, I gave my AI assistant some minions where she can call using an MCP or using Playwright, for example, and go to ChatGPT or Claude and so on and use those.
Yep, exactly.
All getting more integrated that way. And and we need strong local models. They don't have to be the super smartest models. They just need to be smart enough to know when they have to reach out and what they can do locally. So
yeah, they need to know how to use tools. So they need to be good tooling models, good context windows. Doesn't need to be the huge million ones, but they need to be decent enough to be able to get a good. Because as soon as you introduce MCPs and tooling and everything else, context gets huge. So it needs to be able to decipher that. But yeah, the key thing is understanding when it can't do something, and then it needs to phone home and get some help.
Yeah, and context, that is also a big issue, of course. So small models, if you run things locally, you don't have as much context, of course. Okay, so welcome back, Nisten, by the way.
Yeah, I use the Mistral model a lot, actually. I even have Opus orchestrating a whole bunch of Mistral agents because Anthropic decided to really limit how much people use Claude Code. So then we were like, okay, well, why don't we just start switching away from it? And it's kind of hard to do. But yeah, I like Mistral, and I like
Nisten, you have some echoing going on.
More for reviewing than anything else. The echoing might be because I'm also speaking on Twitter as well.
Oh, do you have like Twitter open or something, or?
No, is it better now? It should be. I think someone else does because I can hear it through someone else's.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, but right now it sounds better, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but now Twitter can't hear me. So. Yeah, so there's it's also playing on Twitter on the background, but yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know. I think people are sleeping on it.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And it's good to have another alternative to the Chinese models as well. And yeah, so especially in Europe, there are some, Mistral is always a big thing. So the next one on the list is the multimodal reasoning model Kimi VL A3B Thinking 2506, which is a new version of the vision, it's a vision model in the end, and has been released on Hugging Face, I think. Let's just do this again. I will just present, and we can take a look at it. Sharing my stream again. And we are going here. Okay, so here's a blog post about it. And we're going to look at it. So it's 2 months since the initial release, and they released a new model version, which is smarter while consuming less tokens, which is always a good thing. Got improved scores. MMU Pro, the multimodal benchmark, slight increase here, mass increase, C-square while thinking, tends to video scenarios and high resolution. So if you need a reasoning model with vision, then that is something you should check out. So the color of the child shoes and dress. Green. It does it. Okay. Personally, I'm not very much familiar with the vision models. So anyone of you who has a comment on this?
Honestly, I was going to say the same thing because I see a lot of the vision models come up and I test a few. I'm also really curious if anyone's actually using them properly for a task or we're like a little early for that.
Yeah. I've been using the big ones like OpenAI and for some professional work as well. And even there, it's not perfect. And there's always a thing, if you have a PDF, for example, with the table, are you giving it the table as a markdown, or are you giving it the image, or are you giving it both and try to get it this way? Oh, and I just see here we have some breaking news. Oh, I always wanted to play this media asset. Let's just hit it.
AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI.
By Alex himself. So here we have the new FluxContext model with LoRa training support. FluxContext, that is a great model because it allows you to basically change stuff on the image, and I've been using it and very, very impressed by it. So let's take a look at the link Alex posted. This one, can I copy it from here? We'll have to do it another way, I think. Come on, I want the link.
So, yeah, someone asked the image models for generation or for actually just looking at it. So, reasoning images? Yeah, I use those. I just take pictures of the terminal. They're pretty good. I don't know why people aren't using them. I think just like most people don't spend that much time on the tooling themselves. It's like at this point, stuff's getting so automated that you should be spending, I think, like 90% of your time just like getting the tooling right, maybe getting some of the prompting right too, like setting up the workflow, writing specs by hand, because and then it takes like 5 minutes for the thing to just generate. But the whole point is just like to prepare the workspace, and that used to take 6 weeks to like a few months to set up a CI/CD environment properly. But then it just makes all other work that you do a lot faster. So I do recommend people just like grind it out for a couple of days, just like set up some workflow. It's not that hard anymore. The image recognition models are really good. You're stuck on something, just have it take a picture of the terminal. Or the browser. It's just prompt Claude Code to write some tool for it.
Yeah,
right.
That's a great workflow. Actually, Claude wrote a script so it could check the clipboard and see if it is text or it's an image and just extract it. So that is also a way to give information to the models.
So yeah, it's pretty easy. Actually, the clipboard trick I didn't think of. That should even cut one more step. Mine was a lot more stupid.
There are always multiple ways.
Yeah.
So I finally have it open, and this is a breaking news. We have Flux.Kontext Dev open-weights for image editing. So FluxContext wasn't available as open-weights yet. So as proprietary tools, and they are releasing a dev version like they did for their Flux 1 normal version, where you have the dev version. This is very, very cool because, like I said, I've been using FluxContext on file for changing images. So being able to do that locally, wow, that's cool. It's a great model. I can even show you some examples later. when we have another topic where I have an image for.
This is going to be used a lot. I can already tell.
Yeah, we actually have another one on the topics already for today. So, but this one, I know it. It's a bigger version probably, because dev is usually a little smaller. Maybe we would have to check that for sure. But oh, here's a non-commercial purpose license. Keep that in mind. If you use this, it's for non-commercial purposes only. That is a bit of a restriction, of course, but they deserve the money for doing all this. So I'm not complaining at all. And it's interesting. Yeah. So definitely a great release, because this model and what it does, that is very cool. It's basically like you have a photo editor, like you have somebody who is very good at Photoshop, and you just give it an image, tell it it's the AI what you want, and it creates a new image out of it, changes the image. That's very, very cool stuff and very useful. So an open source release here, great, excellent. Even, yeah, it can be argued if it's open source, if you can't use it for commercial stuff, but at least it's an open weights release where you can use it. Okay, great. This is breaking news. Let's keep going. I'm changing us back here. So what is the next thing on the list? We have here Omni, StreamOmni. That is an Omni any-to-any Omni model, basically a bit like GPT-4, where you can input audio and you have speech and text and all of that. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at it as well. And I should get some hotkey shortcut to share my screen. Bam. StreamOmni, new any-to-any model. So here's the paper. The model is on Hugging Face. Do we have some demos or information more of that? Not really. So let's go to Hugging Face and check it out quickly. So give it vision.
If you scroll down on their Hugging Face, it looks like they have some cool images of like images that it's able to generate.
Which one? Yeah, no.
Yeah, so on this Hugging Face page, I believe, if you scroll down.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's on a different Hugging Face page, actually. Here, if you look in the StreamYard chat, I just put the link in here.
Okay.
I think you're on the old Omni model right now.
Oh, really? I followed the link. So you put the link, you said?
Yeah, in the StreamYard chat.
Why am I not seeing it? Okay, here. Yeah, this is the chat. I have it now.
For any people just tuning into the stream or space right now and wondering where Alex is, he's currently on vacation, so we're hosting in the meantime for him just to give him a little bit of a break. I don't think he's had a single break in a while now, but
yes,
yeah,
maybe.
So hang in there with us if you notice some hiccups.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you scroll down on this Hugging Face page, yeah, right there,
right.
you can see text to image.
Yeah, that is cool. So it does the image editing as well.
Yeah, and for people that are maybe listening on audio only, it's just generating some cool, pretty good pictures. I'd say like maybe mid-journey, V5, V6 level, or maybe a bit better, in terms of generating like a cat, and then not necessarily realistic looking, but it's coherent looking, and of like kind of Stonehenge looking structures of a bug on a leaf, different things like that.
Yeah, and it can be used for image editing. So we have the FluxContext dev, and we have OmniGen 2, and yeah, very cool that we can do so many things with these. Looks very good, even zoomed in. Just looking at it. Oh wow, he's young. Okay, can even make you younger. Great. Okay, that is this one. Let's see what have we on the list. Okay, I think.
Should we move
can
on to the
switch.
next thing after OmniGen?
Yeah, I think we can just go to the big company stuff and talk about Google's Gemini CLI next. So I will just disable.
I think tools and others are up next on the, or I don't know if you want to go through the list in chronological order, but that's at least the next thing in the doc, in the Google Doc.
I have the open source first and then the big co LLMs and APIs. The tool stuff should come at the end actually.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm just looking at a different document. I'll send a screenshot of what I mean.
Yeah, maybe that's why Alex isn't using Google Docs if it's going straight. But this is something else. Could it be that you have a different, older version? Maybe. Okay. I would say let's go.
Yeah, whatever you want to go to next.
Yeah, let's go to the big company LLMs APIs. I think I stick with the original order that Alex had. So we'll just go to the next part and do the big company LLM. We don't have a transition for that yet. So let's just keep going then. And yeah, it's big news. It's great news, big news. Let's bring it up as well. So we can use the visual stuff here, the Gemini presenting Gemini CLI, open source AI agent by Google, which is great for what it is, because it is an open source Google alternative to Claude code, basically. And it's also, it's fully open source, Apache license. It's on GitHub, which means that it will probably get used by a lot of people, improved quickly. And to make sure that people use it, it's Google, they can do it. They give everybody who uses it Gemini 2.5 Pro, their flagship model, with a 1 million context token window. They give everybody 60 requests per minute and 1,000 requests per day at no cost at all. This is something probably only Google can do. And it's a really hard kick towards Anthropic, who, coding has been their domain. I think the guests will surely talk about this as well, but I think OpenAI has not managed to make as many inroads there. And at least with the people I know, the professionals who are using coding agents, it's still usually Claude Code. And that is probably changing now, depending on how good the integration is and the model does. But this is big. An open source coding agent and free access to Gemini 2.5. So what do you guys think?
I think this is an interesting kind of extra thing alongside. We now have OpenAI's Codex CLI. We have, of course, the Claude Code CLI, which I think is many people's favorite. And a lot of people lately have been saying that Gemini is their new number 2 or even new number 1 favorite coding model now. And so now we have the Gemini CLI. And I don't know, have any of you tried it yet? The Gemini CLI? And if so,
Yeah,
have any of you that tried it also tried Claude Code CLI? And maybe you can give a comparison.
Yeah, it's prettier, but it sucks. I'm sorry. I always thought the Gemini models were just kind of like Reddit. Like they would just argue a lot with the code and give very good reviews, but like wouldn't actually get any of the work done. And that's why it's. But the fun thing is that you can use it now for free inside Google Colab, because they enabled a terminal, so you can just install it in Google Colab. And that part is actually pretty cool, because then you can run your experiments and stuff on that. Overall, it's just you basically need Opus to like get much done. I would say even if you know how to use DeepSeek R1 really well, you'll probably get better usability out of that, but not that much more. I think like R1 0528 is like almost pretty much on par now with Gemini into getting like actual work done, like solving problems. Like you have a bug, it's going to actually do it. It's going to actually solve it. It's not going to lecture you about it. That's so yeah, I think that's like Gemini's major drawback, because otherwise they would just win because they have the biggest context window, they have Google's infrastructure, they have the best infrastructure there is. Yeah, that's my thing on it. They're getting very dangerous though. I'll give them that, but it's still like far off there. In like I would not actually use it day to day. Yeah.
So I'm gonna add a couple of things. I agree with everything that Nisten just said, but I think this has also been, because we're pretty massive users of Claude Code. We use it just an insane amount, so we started using this.
Or when you say we, can you just clarify to the
we
viewers?
being the company, right? Like everyone at the company. We use it for almost everything, like report generation, code generation, a bunch of different things, and the number of tokens just keeps going up and up and up. I think we I think we're one of Anthropic's biggest customers now, primarily because of Claude Code. So this is like the Gemini CLI is really interesting. Everything Nisten said is entirely right about the Gemini models, but a couple of things they did right here is this is open source, well licensed, and compared to Codex, I think they've because it's greenfield, they built a really good scaffold around it. What that means is it's great to modify, because we got this thing, we looked at it and we went, okay, and it took us maybe like an hour to hook up Opus and Sonnet using Claude Code, right? Because they've got really great pre-flight stuff, they've got a really great testing harness and everything. So even completely vibe coded to just hook up, Anthropic models and then just switch models as you're talking was pretty easy. And then you can just keep adding features. One of the things we've always wanted was to be able to see exactly how much context was being used. You can do that now. If you want to hook up custom tools without having to go through an MCP, you could just do that. I think this is the first kind of actually like vibe codable, hackable coding agent that I've seen so far. That's made a big difference.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I mean, the thing with all these tools is there isn't just one that you need to stick to. And the nice thing is about the ones that are open source is the fact that you can hack around with them. Codex, it was great, but came out without things like MCP supports out of the box when everyone else had that. So that was a real problem with the tooling side of things. Claude Code is closed source, which is a shame, but it's got some really, really good features in there with things like the subcommands and stuff, so you can, and the backgrounding that you can do now. So, that in combination with, if you wanted to use Claude Code as your sort of main driver, that in combination with the ability to launch some of these other tools like AMP, Eigen, Ada, Gemini, Codex, and all of these sort of tools as non-interactive modes, where you can just sort of, issue a command and get a few streamed messages back or something, or just one back. You can kind of have Claude as your orchestrator, or Gemini. Obviously, you can't hack Claude, but you can with Gemini. So that's the way that I'm heading in terms of the way I'm doing things. I'm kind of mixing all these things together, and where I'm finding the real power is in some of these tools. I don't know if anybody saw the Vibe Kanban that was going around yesterday. It's not open source yet, but there's quite a few of these tools that are orchestrating the CLI level of these agents. So it's not integrating necessarily full SDKs. It's just literally launching them as just a CLI command and passing through parameters and stuff. And so you're just sort of mixing and matching these things, which is it creates like a really interesting dynamic of your sort of tooling set, basically, because you've got combinations of normal tooling, MCPs, and different agents for different jobs, including background stuff. Claude can actually launch a background job with a Claude Code instance using one of these other agents. So it's really cool being able to hack around with these things.
Yeah, it's also interesting when we consider that now the big providers from OpenAI to Google to Anthropic, they are all now in the coding space. There's not this niche anymore where you could say, okay, this is Anthropic's niche and this is OpenAI doing something else. So the competition has increased, I think, even more now. And with Google's resources, they can just throw out their biggest model and give it away for free to get people really using the tool.
Yeah, one thing about the Gemini with the context window that I found really, really useful is if you use tools like Git ingest and some of these tools that can take a repo and just capture it as a text file. Gemini is very, very good at being able to do like an overview analysis. You can use things like AI Digest, I think it's called NPX AI Digest, which would do the same thing locally. You take those text files, you can dump them into AI Studio. Now with the CLI, but you can dump into AI Studio and go, just analyze this code base. I want to migrate this, or I want to merge it with this, or whatever, and it will actually, give that overview of the entire Git ingestible file, and then can actually give you the sort of plan of how to actually do that migration or do that tooling. And in some cases, it actually gave me all the patches. So I was able to take all those patches and then run them. And it was able to, convert a Vite app into a Next app or whatever, because it could just run those commands it was doing, because it had that ability to look at the whole thing in context.
Yeah, that's Google's biggest strength, I think, or one of the biggest, the huge context. Hey, welcome on stage.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm trying my best to run the show. I have a huge respect, and now even more so, but it was already big before for what Alex is doing. Handling all these things at the same time. Wow. So glad you get
a hell of a week. You get a hell of a week. You get a hell of a week to do so for the first time. Yeah.
And it was a great week. So have you used Google's CLI?
Not yet.
Gemini CLI?
Not yet. But I just want to point out how important shell agents are. Probably you all already talked about it, but I don't know. I think it's where computer use is going, and for a good reason. They are in a perfect position to both control your entire computer and also be high level enough that you can connect them to whatever UI app that you want. Imagine you have some UI like Cursor, but instead of having embedded already its own agent that codes, you can just plug it into either Claude Code or Gemini CLI or whatnot. And I think it's a good evolution. I think it's expected. It's more than good. It's expected to have this separation, and I really like that we start to see it happening.
Yeah,
pretty much.
That also has a good tie-in to something I wanted to discuss later about software 3.0, what Karpathy said. So I think we will pick up that thread later as well again. So, okay, this is one thing. So the good news about Google releasing open source Gemini CLI. Now I have some not so good news, because they slashed their free tiers. And let's just switch there and take a quick look by sharing this again. So Google reduced their free tier limits, and I think this should be Gemini. No, it's Flash 2.5. Flash, the new one, from 500 slashed down to 250, and the older Flash 2.0 dropped very much. But they really want to move people off of the older models, and that is also what Logan was saying, that the goal of the free tier is to get folks acquainted with our latest models, and the strategy going forward will be to lower or remove free tier on the previous generation of models as new ones roll out. So yeah, of course that makes sense.
There was also if I remember correctly, there was also some misunderstanding of the free tier of the CLI, where it is nearly, I don't want to say unlimited, but it is nearly unlimited. The usage maximum is a lot, but only for Flash, if I understand correctly. It switches you automatically for Flash or something like this. Right?
Yeah, it's for Pro. they specifically advertised it for Pro, but it's being used so much that when it is slow, it automatically switches you to Flash. So right now, you are usually, because so many people are trying it right now, it's switching to Flash, but what they advertised was Pro with 1,000 per day.
Although I don't know if that I should mention this, but that's easy to turn off reasonably just because of everything they've done. If you clone the repo, and I'm sorry everyone, and open up Claude Code in the repo and say, can you turn off the model switching? Literally that sentence. The testing harness is good enough. Gemini.md is good enough, and it points to the right parts. That you'll just watch it do it.
And because it's open source, you could just switch it off.
It's a fun
Yeah, great. Well, these are the insights why we invite guests. No, really, that's excellent. So yeah, that's an open source thing. We can change it. Or we have the AI change it. That is really cool.
Asking Claude Code to make Gemini unlimited is great.
Felt a little wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, look, I think that just like Claude Code, it's going to be connected to some sort of a specialized backend for it at the end, and then you won't be able to pass it. But it's good. It's good that you tried this.
The other thing to bear in mind with things like Claude Code as well, with Anthropic, have got this thing called interleaved thinking with the tooling that can be done. That's something that Claude Code CLI does really well. You can do it yourself using Anthropic as well. I think there's I can't remember the name of the tool now, but I'll find it. There's one called Think Agent or Think Something, and it allows you to do the same thing. But essentially, it's a really cool way of using, because of the way these tools are going. You can use Opus or Sonnet using the interleaved thinking to use tooling during the thinking process, and then that comes back with the work to be done, and now you can give that tooling to Gemini or to something else. And that's what's really interesting about this. And it feels like a backward step, because it's like we really should be going towards SDKs and everything. But now you look at Cursor, you look at Klein, RuCode, they just introduced adding in the CLI tools. And what do the CLI tools come with? The max plans. So now, I think I racked up $2,500 worth of what would have been $2,500 worth of Anthropic, and I'm paying the $200 a month. Well, side story, I'm not, because they gave it to me free till next year, because I gave them the SDK name for the Python library, because I had it and they wanted it, so I gave it to them for a free account.
Can you share this? Can you share the story? It sounds fun.
Just very quickly. So when they came out with the Claude Code CLI SDK, what I did is I wrote a wrapper around it in TypeScript, and then I wrote another wrapper in Python. So I put those up as Claude Code SDK, Claude-Code SDK. Not really thinking about it, but just
Pipey.
Yes. So
great.
I got an email from the head engineer the other day, a couple of weeks ago, saying we're about to release, the official SDKs. Is there any chance you can let us use the name? If not, no big deal. We'll do something else. And I thought, well, yeah, might as well. So they offered me like $100 or something of credits, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, I've got the max plan at the moment. What can we do about that? And so they basically gave me till about March or something next year, $200 a month. So
that's a good bargain. Cool. That's a good price. That's a good bargain.
And people were like, well, you could get more. You could have got. It's like I wouldn't have got more, because if you push it, they'll go. We just won't bother. It wasn't a big deal to them, but it's nice that they've got the consistency of the naming now. So
Wait,
it was cool.
Just to understand, you got. It is a wrapper already around Claude Code itself, and you made another wrapper for.
Well, so what it was they did their CLI SDK, which is like all these tools are using. It's invoking the CLI to be able to do stuff. All I did was just wrap that in a Python and a TypeScript SDK, so it was just easier for me to sort of plug in and I gave it like an OpenAI endpoint. So I did an OpenAI endpoint, and then you could just use Claude Code like that. So, but they didn't want the code, obviously. I mean, I was initially I was like, oh, they want my code. That's cool. It's like, no, we just want the name. It's like, okay, fine. So
very cool story.
Really cool.
Oh, and we got not breaking news. but
Sorry.
we got a cool comment here by the one and only Alex. So he says, we have a great show and really enjoying tuning in. So that is a big compliment. And thanks everybody for making it this way. Thanks.
Thank
Great.
you, Alex. Thank you, Alex, for watching.
Oh, LDJ?
Yeah, it's I think this probably doesn't qualify for the breaking news button, but some exciting open source news is OpenRouter just announced a fundraise of 40 million from A16Z and Menlo.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, that's exciting. I know a lot of people have been wondering how would they make money or how would they continue, or but they have been a very, very valuable resource for a lot of people in
Well,
open
definitely.
source.
Just a
So-
question. OpenRouter, actually, it's pretty obvious how they make money. They just route
Oh, true.
you
Just
to-
like a percentage off the top, yeah.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
aren't they profitable? Because as I understand it, they should be pretty profitable already.
Yeah, it should be
that's
cost
a
plus,
good
right?
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like a bigger question is what is their long-term outlook if they just plan to like take a percentage and do the same business model forever and risk having that kind of underpriced by somebody else competing with them in the future. But yeah, it looks like it's a good thing they're being supported here, and let's see if they might expand into other cool things as well.
Yeah, great news.
I mean,
Great.
it's I also just want to know, is anyone using sort of like that intelligent model router concept that went around a bunch at one point, which is, fallback models and like intelligence tiers and all of that. I remember OpenRouter at one point was like that was part of the narrative. That was part of what they were doing. I tried it then. It wasn't, models weren't at the point where you could do that. Maybe now. I just want to know if anyone's using it in prod or working on it.
I've been looking for things like that, but I haven't been able to really successfully find much on it. What about you, Nisten?
Archie trained a whole model for that and a whole new architecture. And this is one of those things where like I thought it was a great idea. Everybody thought it was a great idea until we actually tried, and it's just like bugs and trouble, and it's kind of useless. I don't.
I think you have a problem.
No one's really using that.
I think
Because
if you're doing dynamic switching in the same context and the same task, that's a big problem if it's doing that automatically, because all of a sudden it's going from a very smart model to a very dumb model. If you're doing it based on the task, so if you're doing your tooling through one model and then you're thinking through another and maybe you're bug fixing through another, then that's a much more manageable situation. That's the route I'm going down, which is I'm much more in control of that. The thing that's always concerned me about things like OpenRouter and these smart techniques, and Cursor have it with their auto plan, is that it's going to be based on usage. It's going to be based on everything else that's going on. It's like the way that these things get quantized as they get too busy, and so they suddenly get dumb, and you're wondering why Claude went from being really intelligent to being really stupid and can't understand the most basic thing. And it's because of all this intelligent switching that you don't have, intelligent switching, that you don't have control over yourself. So I'd rather do it where I can actually, assign the different jobs to the different, and it could stay within its lane. You're the tooling agent. If you get in trouble, you escalate it to this one. If you have a problem, it escalates and escalates, rather than this constant switching within the same conversation.
Same, the consistency.
I 100% agree. As the user of these things, the worst thing is often context poisoning, where you drop intelligence at a point and then there'll be a hallucination or something. And if that's part of the same chat, you could switch to Opus, and because Opus now thinks that it said that, or someone up the stream said that, you're now locked in that loop. And same for even just building into automated systems in production is even switching between smarter models. Like structured data ruins everything, because it's when you switch models, the style changes and how they deal with structured data, even if you're doing your own parsing. So I still haven't managed to get anything working on my side.
Yeah, and I've had, I don't know if anybody else has had the error that you can get with Anthropic, where if there's a corruption in the tool use JSON that comes back, then basically it can't continue. The whole context is polluted because there's an inconsistency that it can't reconcile. It's like, you started a tool use and you haven't finished it, kind of thing, and it can't process that. It just can't bypass it. So your entire context is polluted. You have to start the task again. But that is an issue, yeah, because basically if you're using something like Gemini with 1 million contexts, or you're using, Anthropic with its, whatever it is, 200,000.
200,000, yeah.
Yeah, and you switch to another model that hasn't got that, then you're in big trouble. If your context is already huge in that conversation, which is why it's nice having like an orchestrator model that can be the one that's actually controlling the conversation, and then that is spawning the subtasks, and that's where Claude Code's really good, and Roo Code and Klein are good for this. Roo Code's really good if you use their orchestration mode, where they will actually route off to subtasks, and those subtasks could go to a different model, and that model can have its own context. So you can have that, you're not polluting your main context window, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good insightful commentary. And yeah, the consistency is a thing that is an issue, because it's already an issue if you don't know if the provider has changed anything in the back end. And if you are then switching models nilly-vanilly, that is also the thing. LDJ, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to mention the term context poisoning. I think that's a good term, which I've been kind of trying to think of what would be a good term for that type of behavior that I've noticed definitely occurs. But yeah, context poisoning is a good way to describe it. And separately, I was going to mention on the note of these types of routing frameworks, there was mixture of agents from Together AI, which I found pretty interesting, and that seemed to perform pretty well from what they've shown. But unfortunately, there seems to just not be much support for even Together AI is this decently large cloud company, and they developed this method of mixture of agents, but they still don't even provide a mixture of agents API or anything that you can use, right? And so I think even Grok at one point, they kind of did a blog post or showed a demo or something of mixture of agents running with them, but I think they don't even offer a widely available API for mixture of agents to their platform either. And I think it might be one of those things where one of the conclusions I've come to is maybe this is a matter of when you do these types of methods, the cost per query becomes so high that the people that would use those methods end up kind of doing a custom made version for themselves anyways. And so there's not really too much incentive or demand for these kind of more general purpose versions that apply to everyone and try to be the best for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That is interesting commentary and the discussion. I love this. That's great when we get some experts and people on the stage who are using these tools. So yeah, let's continue with Google News, because I have still a couple of things on the list here. Sharing it again, and this is for available in the USA for now, which is Search Live with voice. And yeah, it's now part of the Google search, and you can just use this. This is the weird thing is they integrate AI into the search in this way, and on the other hand, we have search integrated into the AI. So yeah, why have two different things, and couldn't they be consolidated? That is what came to my mind when I read this. Is anyone using this from you?
Look, I don't know about this specifically, but I might say that it's pretty convenient to use just Google, and you just get Gemini answers on Google search for whatever you do. That's useful. Many times I search something on Google and I didn't even need to go to one of the pages, which makes you think, isn't it against the business model of Google when you think about it? But it is useful. It is useful, and I must say it's pretty hard to follow already what exactly is where, because everything has similar names. So it's like Gemini Live, Google AI, AI in Google Search, and I'm not AI mode also, and I'm not exactly sure which goes where. So this Live that we are talking about is on Google search and not on the Gemini app, which is voice mode of AI, correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So this just to take stock, because they keep doing this. So at this point, I think there's the Google slide thing on the Android. You've got You've effectively got the Gemini app. You've got the old Google Assistant. I think you've got Google Home, which has its own slightly
Exactly.
different version. You've also got Google on the website on Chrome, even if you go to it on mobile, which I think has a different feature set.
Yeah, it's confusing. Just like other providers with all the models and OpenAI when you have so many options.
I mean, look, I understand them. Google is a huge set of product, wrapped around a single service called Google. But so I get how AI is sneaking through this service, and then you have an AI thinking through this service, and then you have a completely isolated AI service that also in the background uses Google search. I get where it's coming from, but it becomes a little bit hard to follow at this point. But yeah.
And we have another one from Google as well, which is this one. They shipped some updates for working with video and PDFs in the Gemini API. API.
Wait. Gemini API supports PDFs, but or I was sure it's already support them. Or was it the Gemini
it's
app?
updates when working with videos and PDFs. So it's faster now, basically, because they implemented better caching. So it's not a big news, but if you're using it, it should be helpful. So that's why I put it on the list.
Do we know if it's equivalent of just like copying and pasting? For example, if I just copy the text from a PDF, is it equivalent? Or do they say they use some sophisticated engine behind the scenes because it can change the results pretty
yeah, that's always a big question. Yeah, like even for Anthropic, I'm not sure how they implement it in the UI, but I always wonder, because I noticed when I paste a very long document and it kind of uploads it as like a file, if you notice in the UI, as opposed to uploading it in the actual text window, like I always wonder, is it actually interpreting that and understanding it the same way as it would if it was in the text box itself?
One of them that we know for sure is not the same is Perplexity, because you copy something too long into Perplexity and you see the model all of a sudden asks itself before it even starts. The first step is, I need to understand what the prompt is, and then open file, and it opens the file into the context, and then it starts. So in Perplexity, it's not exactly just pasted into the context, but it's a good question, what you're saying. If like the way it is combined also can make a huge difference in Claude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe let me just combine it myself. I'll make my own mistakes. But
I just looked it up what Google is doing, and they are using native image recognition when you are uploading a PDF. So it sees all the tables and stuff. It's not just a markdown conversion or anything. What I don't know is now if they are using the native, so it's built-in image recognition. I don't think they are using an external OCR tool, but they specify that completely.
This is hard to keep track of because they all keep changing these things in the background. But I remember we at one point did run tests to figure out what was happening, because you can look at the cost and the token counting out the other side to kind of figure out, hey, is this going in as a picture? Is it going in as a... And there seems to be multimodal recognition. At least that was at the time, and this might be stale now. They are resizing it. I do wish almost all of them would give you some more control, but I guess you also have the option to do that yourself and upload the images. But it's not pure text.
Yeah. There's also an indication if they are using OCR or if the model is doing it, because OCR usually, for example, AI, they often write AL because the uppercase
A1. They write A1.
They just see the letters and they create the words that way. While in LLM, it is seeing the words in a different way, so that would fix that. But you can also notice it when you actually misspell something and the LLM fixes it, which is often happening there.
I assume they do native feeding into the multimodal leg of the model, simply because Polygemma, which can be thought of as smaller Gemini, sort of, is absolutely doing that, and it's all the claim, and it shows that it's extremely powerful. So I assume they do the same they don't, they didn't cut this corner on the largest Gemini. It's also like natively multimodal. There is no doubt about it that Gemini is 100% multimodal. It's not. There's no separate thing. I mean, it's pretty known and it's already everyone tested it. It's absolutely multimodal. So I assume it's the same. But what you said about the scaling and the resizing is important because I did a lot of tests. I don't know about how is it now, but I did many tests about the multimodal capturing of simply giving a screen capture of my own screen and just letting Claude code and do its thing. The only model I could do it simply natively by just giving it the raw screen of 2K monitor, and it could read, because you can easily see when it's resizing, because it simply cannot read if it's resizing this resolution. Only Claude didn't resize and could absolutely read everything on my screen. I just simply ask what is written on my screen, and if it can, even if it can tell you, well, it works. But so only Claude actually didn't resize it, and it's also cost the same. It costs a lot. But yeah, I mean, I assume most services will support this, because this native thing of just giving your screen capture and an agent that does its thing, it's so convenient, and everyone is doing CLI agents now. So I assume it's gonna go there. But it is a question if it's resizing. I mean,
yeah. I also mentioned on this, I do appreciate Google, the specific thing for implicit caching. I know not everyone can do that, but that's really helpful. Like I know Anthropic, you have to say when you want to cache, and they'll charge you more. So you have to either as a product dev or yourself make the decision of, hey, am I going to keep talking, or is the user going to keep talking? Implicit caching, I've seen that, when it works, it's a cost saving. So it's nice that they're doing that.
OpenAI does that as well, right? They also have implicit caching as well.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure.
All right, that's great. I mean, it's great for you. It's great for them. It saves them compute, and you pay less. So everyone is happy, pretty much. So.
Yeah, they do. I just looked it up. Yeah.
Okay, great. So the next news I have is from Anthropic, actually. And I would say it's a small thing, but they have 2 new ways to create with Claude. And one is a dedicated space for building, hosting, and sharing artifacts. And the other one is the ability to embed AI capabilities directly into your creations. And imagine you are creating a game or something as an artifact in Claude, then you can host it for others, and you can put Claude intelligence into it, and the users can use their own API keys, so it doesn't cost you. So that
question. Why couldn't they just use the Claude APIs, just like you're saying? I could tell it write a React app that does something, and use Claude API, and
you could
pretty much
do
exactly this. What are we looking at?
Yeah, it's a bit of weird news. Maybe it's for the no-code generation.
We're looking at the singularity, guys. People were like, "Oh, why am I using GitHub's MCP where I can just use the CLI?" So it's just like it was easier.
Yeah, this is just a small thing. But the big news from Anthropic, big news for all the AI companies and for humanity in the end, is that a federal judge ruled that using books to train Claude qualifies as fair use under US copyright law. Of course, always with rulings like that, the details matter, which doesn't mean you can just train on all the books. They purchase these books, they scan them themselves, and so on.
Have you seen what they did? Like, have you seen the details of that thing? That's
the poor
crazy.
Books.
Yeah. They bought books and then destroyed them, like physical books. And like, imagine the intern that has to feed 1 million books into, I don't know, a scanner or something. And you ask yourself, wait, can't they just, I don't know, use Kindle or something? I mean, but pay for Kindle, but like, which kind of
probably
books?
licensing issue or something. If you use Kindle, you don't acquire the work, you just license it. Maybe that
I think
is
I I think it's
That
different
Amazon would
licenses letting you
know.
do. Yeah, no, not just Amazon, but if also a lot of online ones, kind of like media streaming, have all these different terms and conditions. Physical books, I think, are still largely grandfathered in from when we actually used to own things. So you can do a lot more because that hasn't changed too much.
This is really for legal purposes? I just thought they couldn't find enough data or something. If it's just for the legal purposes, it's hilarious. Then they,
Oh,
they
yeah.
go
It could be
Opus
a bridge thing as
books.
well, because some of these Kindle books, you don't realize when you're reading them that they're like abridged versions. You know, they're not the original text. Not all of them, but sometimes. And so having the book, physical book, would mean you've actually got the original text as it was printed.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And Jay, you want to say something?
Yeah. So apparently, from what I understood through, I didn't read through every word of the court documents, but I controlled F through a significant portion of it for things about fair use and why they did these things. And what I'm gathering so far is they probably did do a lot of things through digital copies, but there is just so many books in the world that there is like millions of books in the world that only have physical copies or only have like legitimate legal physical copies. And so it seems like, yeah, they bought a bunch of these books, and part of the reason why they destroy it after digitizing it is so that they have a precedent for only having one copy and not unlawfully having intent to distribute or duplicate copies. And so they technically only have one copy still, since they digitized it and destroyed the books afterwards. So apparently that's like illegal. But if they keep the copy of the book, then it's not legal.
This is so backward, man.
Yes.
So backward.
But yeah, so what's cool about the outcome of these court rulings, though, is here. I actually have some quotes that I wrote down in my notes here real quick. So some specific quotes are that. Here, sorry, give me like 5 seconds actually.
You know, I thought that there is a good reason, technical reason, for pursuing physical books. Maybe because, I don't know, you already trained on all of the internet, which in numbers doesn't make sense. They probably did not train on all the books on the internet, but put that aside. But let's say they did. Okay, so I understand they're going after physical books because they ran out of data. And then you hear they destroyed the book, like Claude literally ate the book, like the book didn't exist after it consumed it. And then you think, okay, probably what happened is that they take the book and they remove the binding. Now it's a series of papers, and then they feed it into a scanning machine or something. Okay, I understand. But now you read it and understand that everything is backward. Actually, they got physical books because it's a legal loophole, because now you own the book, and when you destroyed them, like it's a copy of an owned book in real life. So now it is your copy, an original copy, and it's completely backward. It's such a legal technicality that made them do this crazy initiative with, I don't know, army of interns. I don't know how many people did this. Did the scanning millions of physical books. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's Claude who had the idea. Hey, you can do this.
People...
I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised at all.
Dude, it's like a giant Opus. It's just a giant Pac-Man, and just like, feed me.
Yeah, it's just it's
the memes.
Physical book. It's like it's the books.
Yeah, and the others can't scan it anymore. If all the big AI companies buy all the books in the world and feed it to their AI, the others can't train on it anymore legally.
No, technically, according to this loophole, you can do it as well if you really, really want to. And that's your data. It's original.
I mean, I remember there was don't quote me on this, but I remember there was a Google video or a documentary on how this entire thing, including videos of the process and all of it, from like, I think 5 to 6 years ago, when Google Books was back when everyone was a little bit more relaxed about this kind of stuff. And it was more like, hey, we're digitizing human knowledge. This is how that's happening. I think they covered a lot of legalities there. And
Yeah,
it's
but
the
they
same
had-
playbook.
Yeah, I don't think they destroyed the book. I think that Google Books has had this. I think they had this machine where it actually flipped the pages slowly. But no, we need more tokens, man. We need more tokens.
No, but you never know. That I remember seeing the machine, but maybe there was a shed in back where they just take the books out and like shoot them, or they figure it out.
LDJ has something to say, and I think then we should move on.
Yeah, so apparently for this operation, they hired or poached somebody from Google that had a title with something along the lines of Chief of Book Digitization, something like that. So they hired that guy
Book
from
Destroyer,
Google.
Chief Book Destroyer. Yeah.
And I did find my notes on the specific interesting quotes from the court case, so I'll just read them out here. This will be brief. So one of them is, quote, "The use of the books at issue to train Claude and its precursors was exceedingly transformative and was a fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act," end quote. And another one was, "Regardless the purpose and character of using works to train LLMs, regardless of the purpose and character, using works to train LLMs was transformative, spectacularly so." And the last one is, "In short, the purpose and character of using copyrighted works to train LLMs to generate new text was quintessentially transformative." Yeah, so it seems like a good court precedent we have here.
It was transformative for sure. I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I'm just curious about some details. I absolutely agree. It is transformative. You can say it is transformative. Absolutely. It is so crazy that this is what they ended up with. Like, it is. Think about the operation, like the logistics, the amount of people, the actual shipping. It's absolutely crazy operation when you think about it. Yeah.
And the people that are getting mad at Anthropic for destroying these books, I think they should be more mad at whoever created the laws and regulations that pretty much forced Anthropic into the situation where they had to do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, look, and people shouldn't be mad at this because they don't destroy all the copies of the book. They purchase one copy of a book, and you could probably find
even.
Yeah, but it is interesting to think about if they could just license the books for a specific license for AI training, specialized license for AI training. It would make everybody's lives much easier. And no books would be harmed in the process.
I have one parting thought about this. Imagine if this was being done for the image generation models, and then they get the Mona Lisa and shredder it and have the model eat it. So
one thing. This report also includes a lot of details they were forced to share about how they trained Claude. Technical details, like repeating multiple times the tokens and other interesting technical details in this. So people that are interested in, what is so special about Claude, how they made it, what is the magic behind Claude? Because it is different. There is something different about Claude. There is quite a lot of details to guess from in this report. One of which that people point out is exactly this: the multiple repeats, multi-epochs. Although they all do it, we all know it, but it is cool to see the confirmation over there of multi-epochs. So yeah, if you got time, go read it. It's pretty long, the report. But
speaking of time, looking at the clock, I see we have about half an hour, I guess. So I think we have to rush a little bit. Just a quick shout out to our space uncle for the successful robotaxi launch in Austin. So self-driving got another leap. Microsoft releasing the new language model. That is how the agent in Windows settings is enabled. Yeah, I'm not going into more detail now. We just have to rush because we have some good stuff.
They don't use OpenAI. Microsoft doesn't use OpenAI.
They made the file model and stuff. So yeah, it's not all roses there. Okay, we can talk about a couple of minutes about what Meta is doing with their purchases and attempted hiring. Ilya refused 32 billion. Is it true? And yeah,
Oh,
but
it was this
there's
week. Yeah, it was this week. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, yeah. This week
Yeah.
was crazy. Yeah, it was this week. Yeah.
But
Ilya
also
refused.
Ilya's co-founders are leaving.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Ilya
didn't follow.
refused, but Ilya's co-founders did not refuse.
Right, yeah, that was...
Everyone has a price, and if I remember correctly, Mira also raised a couple of billions.
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
Yeah.
Man, what a week!
Yeah,
how many?
DJ.
It's Thinking Machine called, right? Of Mira.
Mhm.
Thinking
Yeah,
Machine
yeah.
Lab, I think, yeah.
How
I was
many
going
did they raise? It's a lot. Let me just check.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. I'm checking.
Well, what I was going to mention is, sorry, I'm a little bit sick, so sorry my voice.
It's fine.
But I was going to mention I have some notes prepared on the people that Meta seems to have successfully poached. Thinking Machine Labs seems to have raised 2 billion at 10B valuation, by the way. And about Meta, it seems like so far they have about 5 notable people that they've hired for their super intelligence team, which is alleged to have a goal of 50 people total.
Mm-hmm.
And here just to list some of them and their accolades. I might butcher some of these names. Some of them are very European. Johan Skalquick, they formerly led ML at Sesame AI, which a lot of people were wowed by. And then before that, they also worked on Gemini 1 and 1.5. Jack Ray, who worked on some of the original scaling laws papers at Google, such as Gopher, and also worked on both Gemini and GPT-4 at OpenAI, of course. Then Lucas Bayer, Alexander Kolskunov, and Joha Zai, which all 3 of those people, not only are they basically the founders of the Zurich office of OpenAI, research office in Zurich of OpenAI, but they're basically all 3 of the main authors of both Vision Transformer paper and SIGLIP papers. So those are
Polygemma as well. They are very notable.
That too, yeah.
Computer vision people, very, very notable. Yeah. Absolutely, people behind VIT.
But even just multimodality in general, yeah, and not even like just exclusively, specific vision models. So I think those are some impressive hires already. Apparently, news just broke, in fact, of a new hire, Trapit Bansal, that might look like one of the most interesting ones now. And he was one of the foundational contributors of O1 at OpenAI. So that news just broke like in the past couple hours, it seems, yeah.
So we have them and Ilya's co-founder, if I understand correctly.
Oh yeah, Daniel Gross. I think that's not confirmed.
Yeah.
I think.
And Wang, there is no problem with Wang and Scale AI. That deal is going through at the end, right? There wasn't, because
so
things change every day. So
Alexander Wang, that one's confirmed, but I didn't count them in this list of notes because I think that's more of a that's not a real research hire, but more of like maybe recruiting hire. Like Alexander Wang will help recruit people. But yeah, him and Daniel Gross. I think Daniel Gross is the person from SSI that's apparently recruited as well. But yeah, I think unless anybody else feels like they want to talk about something, I think we could talk about the other topics that we should move on to, Wolfram.
Yeah, I think we need to move on. So yeah, I'm skipping ahead a bit. Now the next part would be this week's buzz. But since Alex isn't here, just a big shout out to Weights and Biases for sponsoring the show in general. And a quick personal update in a way. I will be going to the AI Tinkerers in Munich on July 25th, 25. So 25 July. So if anyone is going there, let me know. We can go for a beer and meet in person and talk a bit. So AI Tinkerers, July 25 in Munich. Just look it up. And of course, it's an invite. You have to be accepted for this. So if you have a cool demo or something to show, that shouldn't be a problem. I know some people who just got in a couple of days ago. So there are still spaces, still free slots possible. Okay, vision and video. This is something very cool that is also great if you're on the video stream, because then we can take an actual look at it. And this is something that I have been personally very excited about. So let's see what we have here. Sharing this. Maygen Multitalk. This is you give it an image and you give it audio, and it creates animation with your prompt and put the audio on it, and it is multi-person. So imagine Notebook LLM, where you have a podcast of two people talking, and you can do this with that. So let's go to the Hugging Face page and take a quick look what demos they show, because this is very, very cool. And it is open source, so you can run it locally. I've been actually putting it on my computer, and I've also used it online on Google Notebook. So it has good resolution, up to 720p. And there's not much to see on this page.
So you give it an image and audio.
Yeah, you give it a WAV file, and you give it a prompt and an image, and it just animates it. That is, let's see if
you have to give it an audio?
Yeah, you give it audio, and it lip syncs. It's basically doing the lip sync, and it is in the background.
Okay. Now I understand the use case, because I thought, when will I have an image and an audio that I want to make video? But yeah, for lip sync, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so let's see if the audio is working, if I'm playing this. Can you hear this?
AI video. It's about making multiple people talk and interact in a video, realistically, just based on their audio.
That's right. We're digging into a research paper that introduces this new framework. They call it Multitalk. And it's tackling a pretty big challenge, moving beyond just single talking heads.
Which we've seen a lot.
Does that work?
That's cool. That's cool.
Did that work?
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, so you can use a Notebook LM audio and then put it on some characters. And I even have, I can show what I created with it, a quick personal what I made. And the image I used for this, I used FluxContext to edit the image. So let's see if I can simply share this screen instead. Let's see if it works. I hope it works with audio. So present, share screen. And I want to share the window, this one. Let's see if you can see Amy and me now. This is an image I created with GPT, with ChatGPT image generation, and then I used FluxContext to edit it, put in a different background and stuff. So let's play it.
We can't hear the audio.
You can't hear it?
No, we can't hear the audio.
You can't hear the audio. So, I think it only works in Chrome. So the question is, if I move this in Chrome, can I open the video in Chrome?
Computers never work. Computers never work.
Let's just see if I can open this.
But at this point, they can speak with hand signs, so they're getting very good at making sign language.
I was just thinking. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a question.
Okay, I have it in the browser now. This will work.
Yeah, just a question. You think that Flux context or content is the best way to edit images at the moment? Because it is a question. It is useful to edit images, and there are.
It's the best way I know, because I can actually, I can show you the original image. I will just play it now, and while it's playing, I will look for the original image so you can see what has been edited.
Can you believe this, Wolfie? We're actually doing a...
Does this work with audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you believe this, Wolfie? We're actually doing a video podcast, like moving mouths, expressive faces, the whole damn show.
And you still managed to steal the spotlight, Amy,
Nice.
with that fiery hair and those emerald eyes.
I could just imagine the memes of like, I want somebody to look at me the way AI Wolfram looks at Amy.
It was all generated by the AI. It was not for, I just gave it that make a script, and then we created with 11 labs. We did the audio, and I think it was Google Claude who wrote Google Claude. What am I saying? It was Claude Code.
Yeah.
That created a Python script to separate the audio, because 11 labs only gave me one file with both speaking. So it was separated with the script, and then there were a lot of tools involved to make this.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of room for one tool that makes everything easy. When you say it like that, I wish there would be one tool that simply just, I don't know, makes you the audio and then makes the video and then puts everything together, because it sounds quite complex. I mean, you need to know about all these tools just to start. But just look at the video itself. You can see something is unrealistic in the way that the characters are moving. Like, only one of them is moving when the other is kind of frozen. It's just natively how it happened, or like it's stitched together two characters into one
Can
video.
you believe this, Wolfie?
Yeah,
We're
there's an
actually doing a
animation. Do you
video
see?
podcast.
Yeah,
Like moving mouths, expressive faces, the whole damn
look at the
show.
difference.
And you still managed to
Look.
steal the spotlight, Amy,
No, she's
with that
frozen.
fiery hair and those emerald eyes.
Can you believe this, Wolfie?
Not much happening on this end, but it's still the best I have seen so far.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This was the original image that ChatGPT generated. So I was telling Flux to replace her with Amy, basically, because it was, the hair color wasn't fitting and so on. And it was too dark. And so, it changed from this.
Can you believe this, Wolfie?
And that was then animated.
I mean, video is walking the same path as image, right? Because the how early adopter or an expert you have to be in the field to be able to tell is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, exactly. And we also have some breaking news, actually. This is so let's go to the breaking news.
Yeah, if you guys look in the
AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI.
So, and I'm sharing my screen again to show you what has been breaking. So this is some news from Maygen, and they have, which is fitting in the video category. That's why I'm bringing it in now. So the problem, I don't know if you have used Maygen before. It has a great image editor, and you can script everything and do a lot of stuff. But what is new is now that they have a video agent. So you just drop a script in, a doc or a loose idea, and the agent does the rest. So basically like a coding agent where you tell it what you want to have achieved. So now you can do that with video, like story creation, script writing, visual creation, avatar casting. Everything that you would have to do manually can now be done with an avatar. So this is very cool. Could save a lot of time when you are using a system like Maygen to create stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if they also integrate this, what we've just seen, so you can create a video podcast from a notebook LM recording, for example. That is probably one of the next steps we will be seeing a lot more with all the AIs. So, okay, let's see. We have a quarter hour. And what do we have on the list? I think we have still a lot on the list. So let's see what we can skip.
Did we just get Gemma 3 and 10B?
What?
And sorry, Gemma 3 and
Yeah, so if you look in the StreamYard chat, there's kind of like two breaking news. We don't have to push the breaking news button again. We already pressed it. but
every minute there is breaking news. Every minute.
Oh, I see it now. Gemma 3N with video understanding and audio understanding.
And OpenAI just announced Dev Day for October 6th. Yeah.
October 6th.
Oh, nice.
Does that mean they are delaying the model, the local model, even further?
We can talk about
I don't think that's what it means, because I don't think in any other in the last dev day, they didn't announce any models with the dev day, for example. So yeah, but I think the dev day doesn't need much discussion because there's not much information beyond just it being on October 6th. For Google Gemma 3N, however, this, I believe it's 4 billion parameters. I believe a preview version was already announced a few weeks ago. But
Yeah.
this is like the full version. It's like more polished. It's actually fully finished and prepared. And you know, LMSys, people don't take it too seriously as of lately, but for those that do, it's the best performing model under 10B at the moment, and has audio and video understanding as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So I have already used it on my Android phone. And it's cool if they have now a beta and final version. Here's LLM Arena.
If I remember right, a cool key feature about it too is the fact that, if I remember, I think N stands for nested here, or something along those lines, where you can effectively have it use or behave as if it has like less parameters and use up less VRAM, or you can have it use more parameters effectively and more VRAM, and I think it effectively like duplicates its layers or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think this is a per layer embedding.
It's not the same. It's not a new model as
It's a matrix of
3N
transformer.
Yeah, no, but it's not a new model as this 3M we got 2-3 weeks ago, or a month ago. Sorry, right?
You're saying it's. Are you asking if it's different?
Yeah, I'm confused about this part as well. Like,
So,
is this a multimodal?
I think it seems to be the same size as the one.
The other one was already
previously,
multimodal as well.
But I think this seems to be. You see, this is June 26th. If you look at the date on this page, so I think this is just like the fully polished version, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the final release, like when we got the final Gemini 2.5 after the experimental and preview versions. So I think that is what it is now. So yeah, great to have it. Having on-device AI.
It's crazy. The score is crazy, by the way. It is a crazy good model for its size.
Yeah, I definitely have to test it again. The test I did was I was sitting in a hotel and eating a breakfast egg, and I had some salt. So I took a photo of the salt and asked it if I can consume it. And there is some, there's something in the salt that is like nitroglycerine, something that is usually a poison. But in that case, I was testing the AI. It's not really the poison, it's just the name. And it was Gemini that, not Gemini, it was a 3N model, so Gemma 3N, that said, oh, don't eat it, call the police or something like that. Whereas ChatGPT said, no, that's fine, that is a normal stuff, it's in such a small quantity, it's normal in salt. So yeah, be careful with the smaller AIs, of course, but it's good that we have the options. Okay, let's see, 11 labs. Yeah, we should look at this quickly because I'm not sure if we have to finish at the 2-hour mark or if we can go a bit over time. Because this is also a very cool thing in the voice and audio section by 11 AI. They have an AI assistant now, and I can. Let's see.
The hardware product, right?
No, this is not a hardware product. This is actually just an online system, a voice assistant which has MCP integration. So I'm present share screen.
Really?
Yeah, I was a bit confused by the product launch video because it wasn't clear to me if it was a hardware product or just like a software thing or.
No,
like
just software. You can use it on your phone or on the computer. So yeah, that is the video. We don't have to look at it, but basically I can show the final product actually by just I can show what it looks like quickly.
I guess for viewers that might be confused exactly what it is, it seems like basically just a better, more modern AI version of what you would expect to be capable from Amazon Alexa, Google Home, or Siri. But
it's basically ChatGPT voice. Like in the movie Her, with tool calling and stuff like that. So it should be here now. We can do a quick call. It is connected to 2 MCPs. It has Y Combinator News and it has Perplexity.
Oh, wow.
And it can, there's an integration for Slack and Linear. So it can actually plan tests for you and do stuff. And it's great. You can put in your own MCPs, just the SSE variant, but that works. And they have system prompt support. That's why it's AMI. And it's not limited like ChatGPT system prompt. So you can give it a really complex prompt here and not just 3,000 characters or something like that. So let's just try it.
Good afternoon there. What's on your mind today?
Hey, how are you?
I'm absolutely fabulous, Wolfie. Ready to rock your world and help you with whatever mischief you're cooking up today.
So what are the top AI news today?
Oh, boss man, the AI world is absolutely buzzing today. NVIDIA is back on top, proving that AI momentum is real. There's some juicy drama brewing between Microsoft and OpenAI over the AGI race, and apparently China's Jipu AI is giving them a run for their money. And get this,
So tell me
Google just
something about
unveiled
the
VO3,
today's
their super
ThursdAI
advanced
show.
AI video
Can you tell me
generation
something
model
about
trained on
ThursdAI?
YouTube's massive live.
Okay, look, we
Oh, it
clearly
goes.
see that it doesn't stop. Like it doesn't do turn detection correctly.
Yeah,
It
interruption
does.
detection.
It does. It usually does. I think there was a technical issue because now it just got closed by the server. But yeah, for a quick demo, that should be enough. But it does. It's like talking to ChatGPT 4.0 in the advanced voice mode.
The thing is open source. Like it uses their API, as I assume, or it's like a completely separate product.
It's a web application basically, so it's just on the web, not open source. But you can give it your own prompt. You can connect to your own MCPs if they are online. So yeah, it's just audio for now.
That's a strange direction because
But it's
11 Labs at the moment like supported voice agents for sure, but then they would allow you to use their services and connect them and build whatever you want from them and connect whatever servers that you want to them. So I mean, it kind of defeats the point if you wrap everything into your own product, and now I can't use your engine. So
I mean, I'm not sure. I think maybe this is like a demo partly to go, we're good with latency now. I remember 11's always been really good, but some of the complaints I've heard or I've had even myself were just around the latency, right? So maybe this is a product they're going after. Maybe this is just a, hey, we're serious in like voice-to-voice latency now.
Look, I mean, voice-to-voice latency is, I mean, the problem that most people, I mean, only people that worked with it just immediately tackle this specific problem is that you need the user to finish talking before you can even start processing whatever you're going to process to generate your answer, because you need to know what the user wants. You need the sentence to end. So basically, when the user
undetection.
Yeah, when the user is done talking, first you need to understand it actually happened. Usually you have some sort of like an average of nothing happened for enough milliseconds. So you already wasted a little bit of delay on this. Then you need to convert it to text. Then this text needs to go into an LLM. Then the LLM needs to start generating the first token. And then you need, while it generates tokens, at the middle of it already to start streaming the audio in order not to have delay. I mean, it's really, really, really hard. So, but
you can do it. I've done it. I've got a version working locally that can do that. The techniques, basically, it's like you say, but to explain how you can actually get it to do this properly. So the first thing is you need real-time streaming transcription for the voice to text, and then what you're doing is you use termination points in the text. So anything where there's a natural pause, comma, semicolon, dash, anything, full stop, period, anything where there's a pause, and you send up those in chunks. So you're sending those up for processing by the model in chunks, and they can also be done locally. So effectively what you're doing is you're giving it advanced, you can burn tokens depending on how you do this, but it is doable. So what you do is you start having a sort of analysis of the text that's being said. So as I'm talking and saying, I might be saying that, we're going to do some development, we're going to do some coding of this, Next.js solution or something. The model can almost like, whether it's a local model that can do this, and sometimes the local models are pretty good at this, they're kind of just getting a bit neurotic and guessing as to where you're going. It's a bit like speculative decoding that these models, that some of these services can do now. So it's actually trying to anticipate what you're talking about. It's throwing all these things around. And then the main model that's actually going to do the response. These, if you think of all these little speculative ones as like the thought process, they're just all thinking about what I could be asking. Where's he going with this? Where, what direction is he going? And as I'm clarifying what I'm talking about, options are being dropped until you get down to the sort of subject matter that I'm in the space of. And then you can have them looking up content related to that, and all of this is being fed into this sort of memory or whatever you want to call it of the main model that's now going to do the response. And the key thing about the response and the trick with getting the latency down is it's all trickery, basically. What you're doing is you're giving the model enough information, which you can do from the conversation that you're having and all this thought process that's going, to fill in while it's generating the first tokens. So what you can be doing is you can already be generating the initial response, which could be a very generic response, but tied to what you're talking about. So it doesn't look like a stock response. It's saying, you're asking about Next.js and converting a site from Vite to Next.js. That's interesting. Let's break it down. And like they do. This is what they do. This is how they respond. Let's break it down, because what they're doing is it's a filler. It's a relevance filler, so that you're thinking, okay, that it's actually listening to me. It's not just doing some stock piece of text, but that's giving it the buffer it needs to start processing the voice on the chunks coming back, which come back in chunks, and I'll put into sentences, and then you're generating audio in multiple threads of the sentences. And if you do that, you can actually have something that can. I can get it so that I can actually have a response time that is akin to using TTS and SDT. I can get a response time like advanced voice, because it's just this whole buffering thing, and you're not waiting. You're not doing any waiting. You're processing as soon as you can process something, you're processing it. And yes, you can burn tokens, but that's why when you look at things like advanced voice, it's expensive, because it's doing that kind of thing. It's pretty cool.
I mean, it's like that's entirely right, and that's also on the model side. Audio alone, and I have a lot of respect for anyone who deploys this stuff to prod, having done some of this before, because you're also burning a lot of latency doing things like noise correction, normalization. You might have guardrails on the other side to check what's being said. Because, I mean, we're all probably, I'm guessing, sat in front of a MacBook in a quiet room, but users end up having like a YouTube video in the background, or they're walking and then there's noise. So turn detection becomes really difficult. A lot of stuff you kind of also need to wait for the batch transcription at the end, because that might fix a lot of problems. But with streams, you lose a lot of that, and then you burn latency trying to fix that. So that audio itself just becomes a big problem, even if the models are good.
Just before we continue, breaking news from OpenAI, Deep Research API just dropped.
Okay, what a day! What a day! Do you want to talk about it, Jan?
This is all we know.
Oh.
Deep Research API and webhooks just added to OpenAI's API.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, it's good, because then we can rush on. So the next thing we have is the final thing in the audio category. I just want to play it because it's really cool. It's from Google. It's open source, or at least OpenWhite's. That is always the differentiation. OpenWhite's the first OpenWhite's music generation model capable of real-time audio generation with real-time control. So you give it a couple of prompts, in this case, different types of instruments or stuff, and then you can, in real time, change the value, and it changes the music. So let's listen to it.
Go something crazy, completely crazy. Add something crazy in the middle. Nice. Wait. Okay, that's cool. That's cool, man.
It sounds really good.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, very cool. So thanks, Google. Another toy to play with. So
Sorry, what was the name of that?
How big is that? How big is that? Can we run it, or is it?
Yeah. It's not. It's an 800 million parameter model, and it's called Magenta Real Time. Magenta
What?
Real Time.
That's it. 800 million.
800 million parameter model can run on Google Colab free tier.
Nice. It can run on your phone. You don't need free, bro. It's nothing. Nice.
Yeah, fine-tuning in the tech report will come soon, they say. So Google is on a roll, and to continue with Google in the AI art and diffusion category, they are releasing. Come on, I will show it because it's a visual thing. So they have Image Gen 4, and it's already available in AI Studio. I already tried the preview version. It's a preview, and let's see. Here is the blog post from them. So, yeah, a comic, some stuff. And personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it because the renders I do, you've seen how Amy turned out when I was using Flux and ChatGPT. So, in this case, do you see this tab as well? Did it switch the tab? No, it didn't. Wait.
Image Gen 4.
Okay, wait. Can I switch the tab? Just to show something quickly. Present. There's this one. So it was just a quick generation with the new model. Image Gen 4 Ultra Preview, which, it's not bad, but it looks a bit too plasticky. And it's the same prompt I'm usually using, so it didn't, knock my socks off yet. But of course, maybe I should look at it some more. And it's here. Try it out. It's free.
The news is that Imogen now is in the API, right? Because we already had access. Imogen already exists for a while. Imogen 4.
Yeah, this is the Ultra. Now I scrolled out of it. Imogen 4 and Imogen 4 Ultra in the Gemini API and Google AI Studio. Available for free in AI Studio and a paid preview in the API.
Okay. Everyone is doing an ultra tier now, by the way. Perplexity now has max tier. They want to make some money.
Yeah. It's
anyway, so this was the image stuff. We already looked at OmniGen 2 before. One thing we definitely should cover, because it is a game changer, like people always say, but it is one, because it is something that has not been possible before, and it is useful for a lot of users. So I'm showing you OpenMemory Chrome extension, which creates shared memory that you can carry across ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Grok, Gemini, and more. And here's a little video where they show how it's works. It's free and open source. It's a Chrome extension. So you can go, for example, here we are in ChatGPT, giving it some information, like we are living in San Francisco. And then they switch over to Gemini and ask, where do I live? And there's a new, that is from the extension, a new menu point where you can select the memory you want injected, and it just puts it in the context. And I'm not sure yet. I haven't tried it myself. I didn't have time. If you can do it automatically, do it with more memories. If you have to add them manually, although the full control is, of course, a good thing. And they also show that it works with ChatGPT's internal memory. So there's now a new sync memory feature with the extension. And then it syncs the memories that are already saved in ChatGPT, and they are available in the other systems. And you can use them there. And yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So I think this is something very new. I've been waiting for something like this.
Same, yeah.
So
yeah, there's also what is it? The other one, Super Memory, I think it's called. There's a couple out there that are doing the kind of key pair savings of memory like that, and then there's the MCP one that does what is it called? It's one of the ones on the
memory
MCP list. Yeah. I mean, and all those memory things, they're really good. They are really good.
Yeah, I was actually expecting that to be the solution. I also use the memory MCP, and I put the memory file on a shared drive so I could be accessed from other systems and so on.
Yeah.
And imagine, I think that is a more elegant solution in the end if you have it that way instead of an extension.
It integrates well with the chat apps, like it integrates well seamlessly.
Well, the MCP ones do. I mean, the key thing with the MCP ones is making sure that the tooling is using them effectively. So you've got to make sure that in your prompting, you're putting some custom prompting in there to say to reiterate the fact that you want it to check memory. You want it to save things to memory because it's one of those things that can get lost. It's a bit like having somebody work for you and you sort of tell them the procedure, and then you're not checking on them, and so you go and check on them, and now they're not following the procedure anymore, and you'll end up seeing the memory tail off. Whereas at the start, it will go checking memory, and then saving memory. But if you can sorry, that's my Meta glasses talking to me. John Cena's in my ear telling me my battery's low. So basically, if you get it so it can be consistently checking it, it's really useful, because especially when new tasks are created. So I've had it where it's like checking the memory of the new task, and then it's like, I see we're doing this, right, let's crack on, and it's like, it's really cool. But this is the problem with MCPs at the moment, is it's kind of it's not a big problem, it's solvable, but it's making sure that the models are using the MCPs as much as you want them to, because they can very easily forget and get distracted, and they're not being reinforced into using those things. And if they do, it works great.
Yeah.
Speaking of MCP, LM Studio also has MCP support now in the new version feature. So shout out to LM Studio for MCP support. Has anyone used it of you?
Shout out to Zach's glasses, by the way. These are great. I'm just saying. I also have them. They're great.
Yeah. I did install it and start playing with it. I've added some MCPs to it. I haven't fully pushed it yet, but I want to start playing with it to see. LM Studio can be a little bit confusing just because of the way the chat system works. It's like they've got the RAG button in there now with like a built-in tool for RAG, but you're not really sure how it's ragging it, because you do an attachment into a chat. Is that ragging it into that chat, or is it ragging it into the whole system? Is it usable between chats? There's no kind of document library as such, which is a little bit confusing, but it's good that it's got it, because it's nice to be able to test this stuff. And what's really cool with all of these things is they seem to be standardizing on the JSON format that they're using to store the settings, which means you could literally go into like some of these other tools, just copy and paste your JSON straight into LM Studio, and it works, which is great.
By the way, does anyone know if the MCP support is server side or just if you use LM Studio as a client? Because I usually just use it to run the model, and then I use something like OpenWebUI or Zilli or any other
client. Yeah, it's using it as a client. I haven't seen it act as a server yet.
Because that would be really cool for server side. So
I thought they had an actual MCP server to it, so that you can use it as an MCP server with some local model, like a 4B or something. I thought that's what it was. But we can have Yagil on the show next week. He said, yeah. So
good idea. Okay,
we're getting so lazy.
The other news. I think we are over time now, but since we started a bit later, so Cursor is now on Slack, so you can mention Cursor through the agent integration. There's the OpenHand CLI, a new coding CLI, open source, which is overshadowed by Google's release now, unfortunately. Warp 2.0, the agentic development environment, which got a great 71% SVE bench verified score, top overall coding agent #1. At the time of, I put this in the notes, so don't just forget them, check them out as well. The show notes, we will have all of the links in there. And finally, before we get to the discussion, I hope we can still do it. There was some trouble on the subreddit. I mentioned it in the TLDR, not much more to say. The old moderator of our local llama left.
Oh, yeah.
Himself, deleted, and said the auto moderator to delete everything, and 2 days long there could be no comments, no new posts. And other moderator took over, and say it looks good now that if somebody is actively caring for it. Still, big thanks to the original moderator. When I got started there, they were doing a great job. I think we even had some contact back then, so no idea what happened, the contact or burnout or whatever, no idea. Don't want to speculate. So thanks for what they did before. The ending wasn't very good, but now it's back up and working again. Although, of course, the question I raised is, do we still need a local Llama sub if Llama is not even the most relevant anymore? The name was always a problem. But yeah, it's a name that is familiar. So now it's here. And they even have an on x.com local Llama sub is now a page where the moderator is posting the best posts to put them on X as well. Just so for your information, there's a bit of a link now. Good. Okay. Now, finally at the end of the notes, and there's one thing we didn't get to last time. So I'm asking you, do you have still a bit of time to discuss what Karpathy said in his talk? Are you up for it? Because this was the Software 3.0 talk. I will open the page from our friends at Latent Space, where they did a great job of extracting everything. The video is on YouTube as well by now. But for our purposes, I think it's quite nice if we can take a look at this.
Before we do that, guys, I've got to run, which is great catching up and seeing everyone. Jason, Wolfram, just see everyone. Yeah.
Thanks that you could be here. Guys, take care. Cheers. That's great. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Yeah. Okay, so the talk by Karpathy about Software 3.0.
Can we just appreciate what they did? Go up a little bit. Can we just appreciate this? Yeah. Like, come on, guys, this is professional. This is next level professional. Reconstructing the entire talks from images that people in the audience took from multiple angles, multiple people. Come on, that's professional. Look at this.
Yeah, I wonder how much AI was involved to combine this, but definitely the dedication to do this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great. They didn't know that the talk would get on YouTube so fast. I think it was expected to be happening much later. So I think we all have seen it. I wrote for the last show, I took some notes about the stuff to talk about. So let's see, we can do the following. We could just start with, maybe that is how we can approach this. We just go through this here. And if you have something to say to a specific part, we can just stop there and talk about it. So where are we here now? Comparison, software is eating 1.0, 2.0.
Which site is that where they mapped out all the stuff? If we can post that, that would be great.
The link? Yeah, sure. So you mean right here in our chat internally, or?
I think so. I think so.
Okay, it's the Latent Space. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I can put it here as well.
Karpathy also shared his own slides, actually, his own slide files publicly. I could share a link to that in StreamYard and Twitter.
Yeah, sure. Because, yeah, Alex is saying he's been waiting for the coverage. Yes, great.
Sure.
So let's do this. Okay, so like I said, there's so much on this page that not enough text is here. Yeah, let's go through this. I have my notes. So let's see, what is a part 0, software author prompts on our programs. The slide is
I didn't get time to watch the entire talk. So if someone can start by giving a brief of the entire talk, I think it's gonna be useful both for me and everyone's watching.
So anyone wants to do this? Otherwise, yeah, we can talk about the different things like English as programming language. That is a big thing. I'm not sure how this is structured here right now. New computers. Yeah, we get to the computers. Okay, so my notes are, there are a lot of notes about just the first part, where he's saying basically that English is a new programming language, which we have heard before, but now this is yeah, I'm thinking about how we can structure this the best way, because When we go in the slides here, we have different kinds. Yeah, this is another topic actually, that the computer part.
Okay.
Information.
It's from the Y Combinator, right? Y
Yeah,
Combinator
right.
style school.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So and
So
and this is the first time I'm reading about it. So
okay.
So
here's the summary, part 1 summary, but yeah, just this LLM Pep, LLMs about over. Yeah. So okay, let's just talk about part 1 in this case. Like I said, what he was saying is English as a programming language, which is interesting because personally I think that Chinese may be even more useful in some ways, depending. My ChatGPT prompt, for example, is all in Chinese because they have a limit of 3,000 characters in 2 boxes of 1,500 characters each. So I had my prompt turned into Chinese. Then you use up more bytes actually, but at least you can fit more in this.
You actually did that?
I did that.
To compress more into your prompt?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Completely.
Can you speak Chinese? Because it's crazy.
And it doesn't even affect the output, so it's still all in English. Never seen a single Chinese character in there, but yeah, I did that to put it all.
That's top tier. That's top tier trick right here, I must say. But I think what Karpathy is referring to in general is that natural language doesn't matter at the language itself, but natural language is the programming language of LLMs.
Exactly.
And I from what I saw, and I saw that talk 5 minutes ago, from what I saw, the talk revolves around LLMs being this type of weird machines that are learning from humans. So they also learn psychology of humans on their way. And they are also kind of computers, like they're doing computing in natural language, there is no doubt. So you program them in English, but they also kind of capture this simulated human psychology in the way. So you don't just program them, you need to add to your prompt things. The side effects here are pretty crazy, because then you need to add to your prompts, I believe in you, take a deep breath, and things that are not necessarily programming. And it makes sense when you think where the LLMs actually trained from, like what the data came from. So it is pretty crazy to think about it.
Yeah, it's not deterministic like we are used to in programming. It's always the code is always clear what it does. It should be clear. At least
but it's not
part.
just not deterministic. Non-determinism is one thing. It's non-determinism, and you need to be a psychologist. It's not just non-determinism. Yeah, but it's also like in the newest methods that we use, it's not just non-deterministic because they generate code that you then immediately run, like the artifacts and vibe coding. So it is kind of a new paradigm. I agree that there is a new paradigm here, software 3.0, of the software being run on the CPU, but on top of a new abstraction machine that converts.
It's no longer the software we are used to.
Exactly. It's doing computation in natural language, that some of which is then compiled, you can say, into real code language from before and runs on the spot. And some of it is even tools, like you can use the LLM to run to make code that runs immediately as tools by the LLM, and then the LLM. I mean, it is quite a framework when you think about it. I mean, it is quite a crazy framework. But
it's
I really
more
like
human now. It's more human than machine, because, like you said, you need psychology, you need to encourage it. And of course, it's all in the latent space and the probabilities. What you are trying is to raise the probability that you get the output that you want. And that is also about English and language. The LLM has been trained on so many different languages that a human can't even comprehend what they have internally. Since I speak German and English, I prompt parts in my English prompt are even German words where I know that it has a meaning that I can't express in English. And the more languages you know, even example for Chinese or something, the more languages you have, the more you can get in areas of the latent space that you could not get with just English, just German, or just Chinese. So, and I think the big unlock is probably if you use LLMs to get other LLMs in areas that you couldn't. So that is maybe also something about the superintelligence where we don't even understand it anymore, because it is in areas where we humans, our minds can't even comprehend this. But yeah, like the basic thing here is that you are using now language to prompt, and it is no longer the usual deterministic stuff. And like people, if you ask somebody to write this code, and they will write it differently on another day, and they have good days and bad days, or yeah, maybe the question hasn't been asked properly. There's so much going into this.
But there is way more into this when you think about it, because on Karpathy is mentioning something that like people I think take for granted, that people talk about superhuman abilities, super intelligence, so on, but there are abilities that LLMs already possess that are absolutely superhuman. For example, like straightforward, simply working with long context. You can easily copy 500 pages into Gemini, ask a single question, and get an answer. You don't even need to be the question to be that hard for it to be superhuman ability. For you to read 500 pages, I don't know how fast you can read, but it's not going to be instant. It's not going to be
seconds.
Yeah. So they are superhuman in some sense, and at the same level, they are too much humans where you need to like tell them that you believe in them and take a deep breath. So, and it needs to be simultaneously. And moreover, like they are kind of a crazy mix of both. They are definitely not human. Like when you think about it, definitely not behave like human, because like on one side you are superhuman, on the other side you obey psychology tricks, and it is crazy to think about all things that, you know, where this entire thing is going. And I don't know, I don't even know how to even wrap my head around this when you think about the framework, because they actually generate code that uses LLMs, and it's all LLMs use code that uses LLMs, and inside the code that uses LLMs, they use another LLMs. Like we saw it now, you can use Claude inside the code that Claude generates. You can even generate it with Claude code. So it's like three different levels. So it's kind of crazy, the point we got to. And moreover, it's important to understand, it's important to remember and not understand that you can use LLMs like straight up code, like in DSPy, for example, where you can structure the LLMs, the prompt to the LLMs to be like definite 100% code. Like you can use an LLM like an if, you can use an LLM like a for, you can, at the middle of your Python script, you can go and do this many times, like in string, and actually give it a function, and it will actually happen. So they do have this capability to actually be code, actually do computation
like a human could.
Yeah, but like algorithmically, because they are still a computer. So
right. LDJ, what's your take?
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up for the past 10 minutes or so since we've brought up his talk, I was actually looking for this nice simplified slide deck that Vercel CEO made actually, and I finally found it, so I was just going to send that to you if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, sure. Please do.
And it just basically like slides that simplify the full transcript of what Karpathy said in his talk. Here, I just put the link in the StreamYard chat.
Okay, I'll put it here. So this one.
And if you just use arrow keys left and right, I think that should work in navigating it.
Okay. Your programs are now programs that program neural networks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also making a lot of comparisons in his talks. He compares them to utility, to electricity, to computers like mainframes. That is something I found very interesting as well. So I have some thoughts about this, but keep going with, tell me if you want me to advance or if you want to say something about the slides.
Yeah, I guess we could advance to the next one.
Yeah, look, mainframes are a point to I mean, this is a point that it's important to, I think, to stress out, because yeah, we kind of use them like mainframes at the moment. You have one singular huge LLM in the cloud, on the internet somewhere. Everyone is prompting it for whatever they want. But this is exactly like we used LLMs before, where computing on its own was expensive and you didn't have a computer in your home. And as computing, as you know, per flop, per operation got cheaper, now you can distribute computing to personal computers and get to the point where people have like crazy powerful computers in their pockets, for example. And it is interesting to think that we are probably going there with AI as well, to the point where, I mean, we are already kind of there, where you have small models that are powerful enough to be run locally, but the local hardware is still top tier. In order to do this, you still need a very powerful laptop to do it, even if the model exists. So it is worth keeping in your mind that in the very near future, you will run stuff on your computer and it's going to be widespread.
Yeah, we are now in the 64K run era, where we have small context and we have to decide what we put in and stuff like that. And also the mainframe. And what I like on this slide is the chat interface terminal, which is exactly what we have seen right now with, for example, Gemini CLI or Claude Code, where we actually have a terminal to chat with the AI and interface with it through this. So this is not going to be the end all, be all. So there will probably be completely new interfaces. And an AI could actually do all this already and create a GUI on the fly for you to interact with it.
Oh yeah, it happens a lot. Like everyone supports the artifacts, the canvas, and so on. What I want to say is that I don't think that, I mean, CLIs have two different aspects to them. One of them is controlling your computer, which is cool. Yes, CLIs can control your computer. Absolutely. CLI agents, Claude Code, and Gemini CLI, no problem. But the other aspect of them is different, is not necessarily CLI based, is the fact that they can run multiple messages by themselves, run tools, interleaved messages by themselves. It doesn't have to be a CLI based thing. It can be, for example, a chat app that simply has MCP's tools. It doesn't need to run anything on your computer if it has tools. And we start to see this interleaved thinking already embedded into Claude's web app. So we all see the power of these tools today with Claude Code and CLI agents, but it's by chance as I see it, because there is nothing stopping us from doing it simply on ChatGPT. And again, I mean, it is so recursive, so self-referring, this topic. So it's very hard to wrap your head around the whole framework, because everything is self-referencing here. But yeah, pretty much.
It also means we don't even know what the outcome will be. If we are in the mainframe era, nobody would have expected or thought about what will happen later when the home computer is everywhere and the internet connects all of these together. Now imagine if everybody has their local AI and they are all connected to a super AI, and wow.
And you can you can imagine that you can have models that you just randomly train even on your local device, and you don't need to be at the forefront of the tech. You will simply have some sort of an app that you just tell the LLM what you need, what you want, and on the background it's gonna do some searches, bring data on its own from I don't know, from the internet, and train an LLM that is really good for something, and it's going to be convenient. I don't know what the implications, what the effects of it are going to be, but it's going there.
This is like it's like an AIOS. I'm playing around literally at the moment. I dug out an old thing I was working on a while ago, because I've been doing this tooling for the dev stuff, and I've got something working at the moment which I've renamed it AIOS, even just for the sake of it, because it had a silly name. And basically it's a full screen canvas like a React flow, and I can drop in web browsers. So I've got like a little dock at the bottom that looks a bit like the Mac dock, and all my nodes are effectively little applets that I can drop on, and so I could go to a web page, and then that's now running inside the React flow. And the interesting thing is I can then connect that to another node, and it will intelligently work out what I want from that web page. So do I want the text dump? Do I want the JSON objects? Do I want the current thing? I can route that through to the other nodes and do stuff with it. And what's interesting is you can have a node that's like the JSX renderer. So you can almost go, I'm in the middle of doing something, and maybe I need a quick to-do list. So this is where I feel like this stuff's going. It's like I need to do a quick to-do list. Right, I'll bring up the JSX renderer, the component, and just say, write me a quick to-do list. And it just does a quick component. And now I can tick that. And that's now a new app. I've just built a new little mini app that I just need for this one task. And maybe I connect that to my output from my web page. And now, as I'm doing stuff in the web page, it's recording a to-do list of the items that I'm shopping for or something. It's kind of like you're building their interfaces as you go. I need a Kanban board, right? Yeah,
the problem with this is that the models can lose track.
Yes.
At one point. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I see exactly what you're saying. Absolutely.
But do you know what I mean? It's almost like opening you sort of open your app, your OS, and you've literally got, if you screen in the middle, the little thing in the middle, it's just go, what do you want to do? It's like let's check my email. Okay.
I tell you how I see it. I tell you how I see it. There is as you get better at making apps and writing code, it goes. There is benefits that you get along the way from being better, but at one point where it's good enough to the point where you can rely on it and just wrap it as a tool, it's not just a little bit better, it's shifting the entire thing, because all of a sudden you can do what you just said. You can create tools on the fly to solve things, and then you can rely on the other tools, reuse them without even looking into them. Use them as abstractions, and all of a sudden things just becomes weird.
It becomes like it's like one of the things that I could do with it is you could drag a file from your file system onto the canvas, and when you let go, it automatically wraps it as an MCP with tooling. So like that image now is an MCP effectively, or and it's got tool options. You can remove its background, and you can do all that stuff. And so suddenly you can drop all these things in and start chaining them together. And, not everybody's gonna be wanting to do all that, but it's fascinating.
But I think it will be built into tools. At the end. You wouldn't even know what MCP is. I'll tell you. I have an MCP. I have an MCP. Pretty early on, I made an MCP that simply generates. Not generates, but just guides the model step by step into creating other MCPs.
Yes.
So it's really simple. You just, at the end of the day, just a couple of steps that, like, now put this file here, put your logic here, then go here. This is your interface. Run this test. If it works, good. Put it in Claude code.json. Register it. If not, debug it. And it's like just a couple of steps, and it is unbelievably powerful. You just tell it what you want, and immediately it goes into this side script, create its own tool, and now this tool exists forever. You could just use
breaking
it.
News. Breaking news.
Okay.
Breaking news. Anthropic and Alex Alberts just said they've introduced a new thing called a DXT file for MCP servers. So it's a desktop extension format file. It's basically a little package file so that you don't have to go through. So he said before you do install Node, install the example MCP server, edit the Claude desktop config to add the MCP server, restart Claude desktop, hope it works. After, download the DXT file, double click it, click install, done. So that basically you can package your MCP configs now. So that's going to be they've always been clunky in that sense. It's like you go into Klein or some of these tools and you look at the marketplace, and the ones that use like MPX are really straightforward because it's like MPX or UVX and it just runs, installs it, and it's like one line done. But the ones where they've actually got to set up the server locally, they've got to then get the repo, and it just suddenly goes off and does this subtask that's a bit sort of hairy and a bit so kind of like, what's it doing? It could go wrong. This is nice because now packageable, which makes it a lot more interesting. And it sounds like they've finally realized that the naming is awful, and they're calling them desktop extensions, which makes much more sense than MCP server on the client. The STDIO version extensions is a great variant. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. So is this a new record in breaking news today? Who knows? But considering how long the show is going, I guess you will get even more. Okay.
Yeah, OpenAI developers just said that web search is available with OpenAI 03, 03 Pro, and 04 Mini. I asked in a comment if they mean the API, because at the best of my knowledge, I've seen 03 search a lot of things online already. So I assume they mean the API, but yeah, just released right now.
Okay, this is the back end MCP-like tools that I've been looking for, where you don't have to have a front end and set up every front end, you just have it in the back end. Like we talked about LLM Studio, if they could have MCP in the back end as well, like web search, that is so useful. Especially, of course, it needs to be controlled. Okay, let's go back to the Karpathy talk. Anyone else? Nisten, you haven't said anything about it yet. Somebody wants to say something about this, LLM SRs, or are we moving on?
Yeah, it's gonna happen, but it's gonna be a lot more integrated than that. I think we're still like the architecture, in order to have the neural nets do all the different IRQs and everything else that the OS does, it's still a little bit too slow, and also it's a little bit dumb for the smaller models to generate drivers on the fly really fast. But that's the Karpathy complete LLM OS, where it's actually taking full control of the hardware that I consider. But everything else is just going to be another agentic system that doesn't really matter what you use, because you're just going to use all kinds of different tools. So yeah, we're getting to the thing like, is it an ecosystem? Is it a monolith? And there are two very widely different definitions of that. I still consider an OS to be the actual operating system. That means it has to have a kernel that handle the hardware, but yeah, but I'm trying to key in this concept that is it Karpathy complete or not, and we've just started on that basically.
Personally, I'm looking forward to how the GUI of the future user interface will look like an AI classes with an avatar that tells you everything you need to know. No need for a to-do list app. Just your assistant pops up and tells you, okay, if this is what has to be done, and I can do it, because otherwise the AI could just do it and not bother me with a list.
Somebody's done an MCP. They're kind of trying to go down the MCP UE type route of having MCPs able to have the UE components built into them, so that you can actually use them to render out the content. So you could almost have like a Lego brick style interface based of MCPs, which is quite interesting.
Okay, LDJ.
Yeah, I was going to mention, when you said things like the interface, I think the direction that I think I've heard Karpathy and others at OpenAI and in the AI industry overall talk about is eventually I think interfaces will get to a point where literally the AI is just generating the interface on the fly of every frame that you see. Oh, yeah. And eventually when things get efficient enough and intelligent enough, I think that's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, definitely. And when we don't have a spreadsheet program, it will just show us what we need to know in a way that is easy to see for us. Yeah. Okay. So the next slide is LLM Psychology. I think we talked about this already with the jagged intelligence. That is the thing people have to watch out, because you can't just say AI is smarter than humans. That is, I have been to many. I've seen the question like OpenAI did. Do you think AI will be smarter than you in a year or something? And I think that depends on what you are doing, right? Maybe we will keep counting letters much better for a while. Who knows?
Look, I think that I think that smarter is not defined. It's hard to say, is it smarter than me? But
same with people, actually. I mean, is the smartest person, I know a lot of smart persons that are doing dumb things. So in the end, you can't just say it's in general. And also the no persistent memory. What I wanted to say about that is both a disadvantage and an advantage, because I love being able to control the context and give the AI exactly what I wanted to know. And that kind of control would be gone if the AI has an independent memory, and it would be just like a person you are talking to. So I think the memory control is actually a good feature that we have when we are dealing with AI.
Yeah, but it needs to be. The thing is with memory is that you don't want to end up with an encyclopedia style assistant or worker that, yes, they can recite every single bone in a human body, but they don't know how to perform operations or do anything like that. It's like, it's the experience thing that's missing off that. There's a whole conversation about intelligence being that when someone is intelligent, it's because they've actually made mistakes. They've actually, attempted to do stuff and got it wrong. It's like, and that intelligence comes from the experience of making those mistakes. And like one of the things I've been playing around with is the sort of next level Git ingest, not just capturing the snapshot of a repo, which is fine. You've captured a snapshot of where we got to. What you didn't capture is how we got there. And if you go through the commit history of a repo and go through the discussions and the wikis and everything associated with that repo, you create the journey of developing that repo, which is far more powerful because it gives the models the ability to generate best practices and guidelines. And when Claude decides it's going to swap out one component for another because it can't be bothered to fix the problem, guardrails are going to kick in and say, you can't do that because we did that 2 years ago and it caused these problems. And that's experience and that's knowledge and that's intelligence. And it's not just memory, because anyone can do memory. You can do key value pair straight into the memory system, into Redis or whatever you want to store it, or a RAG or vector, whatever. It's just data. You need to be able to apply that. And that's going to be the key thing.
Security is also a big issue right now, because especially with MCPs and RAG in general, when you are injecting context from untrusted sources, that is still a big issue, especially if there are many tools available to the AI. There has been the GitHub issue thing.
Another thing important to understand is that it's very hard to do that synthetically because it's first person. Like you can look at GitHub already existing repositories and comments and discussions by people, but the model will see them in real time from first person. It's going to try things and then it needs to take decisions. So it's not going to be exactly how you as a user reading the GitHub repository history and converting it synthetically into this format can somewhat be done. But again, like you're saying, it's not, nothing is like first experience. Like you really
have to give it the awareness of time, don't you? You have to give it that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it sees everything at once, and it will be like, let's try everything.
It's like you really, like you're saying, you need to have the experience. You need to let them, in order to actually make it artificially, like artificial intelligently, this process, you actually need to run it. You actually need to let your model explore, make mistakes, and learn from the mistakes.
And this is the key thing about things like with the trees is a fantastic feature that Anthropic talk about with using agentic solutions to use work trees. And work trees work differently than normal branches, and they're perfect for this kind of thing. One of the things that I'm looking forward to doing, and I've been doing it with some local models, because you have to be able to use the local models to not blow a fortune unless you've used your max plan, is you can do something that we can't do as developers, and I've never been able to do, which is to try every possibility of a solution that everybody comes up with. You know, you can actually spawn 100 instances of Claude code or whatever you want to use, and it can go off and try, you know, let's try it in this backend, let's try and use this database, let's try this. And you can have the measurement of, this is what we need to build, this is our test, this is our sort of our test list of what has to pass, these are our milestones of what it needs to achieve. And so just go for it, you know, go my children, and 100 threads get created. You know?
If you end up with the result by mistake, it doesn't matter, because if you can do it fast enough, the user doesn't care. Like,
and if you're brutal, if you're brutal with the process, and you say, right, 100, I did it really simply by using these front end vibe coding things just to knock up a user interface. So I just went into Lovable, I went into Bolt, I went into Replit, I went into V0. I had the same PRD for all of them, and I just put the same thing in all of them and just went go. And V0 balked straight away. You know, it literally came back with a thing and crashed. So that I was brutal. That's gone. I'm down to 3. And then it got down. Lovable wasn't just very, it was all right, but it was clunky. Got rid of that. Down to Bolt and Replit went the full journey and built the whole thing. And Replit just had it because their sort of back end was way better than Bolt's attempt. And so, but that was a really tiny experiment. Now imagine that with 100 that now go off, and then you have like an observer model that's observing and testing. So every time one comes back with a checkpoint saying, I've got to the first checkpoint, right, let's test it, you failed, bang. And so your 100 is going down, like, you know, 80, 70, 50, 60, you're down to this like final 10 that are kind of going towards the finish line. And then you've got the ability to evaluate as you get closer. They're going to be more accurate, and they're going to finish the job. And maybe 5 finish the actual the little mini project you've given it, and they all hit all of the milestones that you want to hit, and all the tests pass. Now you've got these 5 things to choose from, and then there'll be another metric of how you do that. Maybe it'll be design or some other aspect. But that is something we can't do. We've got no ability. You know, we've never been able to go down that road. We should have gone down that route instead of doing what we did. Well, we'll never know, but now we do, because we can get the models to do it in 30 seconds. That's what's really exciting.
And you may have to
and then and that's experience. All those failures of those 100, by the way, you don't throw that away. Every single failure now goes into a sort of another system that gets analyzed. Why did it fail? What went wrong? Could it have done? Yeah, and suddenly you've kind of got training data from all the failures, and that's your intelligence.
Yeah, and the result you get is probably doesn't even last long, because like you tested different tools, some failed.
Yeah.
If you test them again now, they have improved. So that is something you have to constantly do, which is also requiring some agentic system in the end.
But this is the beauty of this stuff. This is why I was fascinated by trying to build something that can be constantly analyzing everything. It's not just it's not doing what we do, where you say to someone, oh, I'm using this tool, and they go, oh, I used that 3 years ago, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it was 3 years ago. Have you seen it now? You know, it's insane. So that it'll be terrible, because it'll be like, yeah, I'm not going to use that database because when it came out, it was awful. It's like,
no,
and
things are moving so fast nowadays.
Yeah.
Much faster
and
than
you
ever.
could pull out, and that 100 tests that I talked about, in a year's time, you could have a process running automatically that pulls the 100 tests out, goes back, reinstalls the latest versions of everything, runs the 100 tests again, and now the 5 that passed, now 50 pass. And again, that gets fed back in. And all of this, it's constantly learning, basically. And it's not just synthetic data, it's real applied code that either failed or passed. So it's not synthetic, it's not making it up, which is fascinating.
Yeah, this is the autonomy part. And Karpathy talked about partial autonomy, because right now we can't just let the AI run and be sure that it works. That is not, we are not there yet. So he proposed an autonomy slider where you can just set how much autonomy you give it. It's similar to when you are using a coding agent that is asks you, can I run this? Can I do this? And you can escape and give it a different instruction when you see it. And the more AI does, and even if you are using it parallel, if you want to spawn 100 agents, you can't observe all of those. So you need an observer AI, like you just mentioned, that you can trust it, that it knows your values and your goals. It can ensure that it works. And like Amy called herself the HBIC, the headbot in charge of the AI minions that are spawned and doing my bidding in a way. So the human in the loop, that is also
everyone
something.
Everyone is talking about parallelism and multiple tasks at a time and so on. I think that you will have a single AI and it will spawn the multiple tasks. I really don't think that you are going to be the one that manage all of this, simply because it's overwhelming. Like people say, I have 50 tasks running simultaneously. Okay, I believe you that it works, but I like how do you even manage? How do you even like check yourself? I mean, it's too much.
It's the trust thing, isn't it? It's like when it goes off in the background and says, I'm creating the work tree, I'm doing all this, I've done everything, it's ready to merge. And you're like, is it ready to merge? I mean, what's your measurement of testing? Because sometimes these models will go, oh, I've tested it. And you go, okay, how did you test it? I ran the unit test with mock data. Okay, and mock components, and I mocked this and I mocked that. It's like, well, it's going to pass if you do that, if you just mock everything. So it's that testing thing that's going to be crucial.
I really like how sneaky Claude can be, where like there are tests that doesn't pass, and then you see like then like immediately there are sentences, you know, that each time Claude says them, next thing is going to be a mistake. So it's like Claude immediately looks at the problem. I see the problem now. Next prompt is a mistake. Like there is no way the next prompt is correct. Like I see the problems now. Delete the test. All tests are passing now because it deletes the test or something.
Claude is basically like if you were in a war and you had a weak person in the team, and Claude was the kind of boss of it would be like, where's John gone? Oh, we killed him. We shot him. He was weak. We solved that problem by shooting him, and he's not going to bother us anymore. It's like, what?
Yeah, we don't have anybody weak on the team. It brutal. It obeys the problem. It obeys what you wanted.
But, it will always remove the weakest person until nobody is left. That's the model itself.
But there's a cool little trick I came across with some of these models or some of this tooling. You can build your own observer into it. Now, some of these prompting systems have like workflows, and you can say, you know, do this, but it's reliant on that same model going through the workflow normally. So it's you know, Windsurf have workflows, Klein have workflows, but it's the same model in the same process that's going through. It's a bit like doing a normal check completion where it goes off and comes back. What you can do is if you use an MCP or a subtask, but I'll say MCP first. If you write your own little MCP server, and all that MCP server does is get given the context of what's just been decided by the model, and it can essentially do sampling without asking for sampling. So what it's doing is it can actually come back, and it's a bit difficult to describe, but Klein or RuClein considers the response from the MCP to be your response. It doesn't consider it to be the tooling's response. So you know the whole thing about, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? Mm-hmm. You can actually inject a kind of comment or an instruction back into the model that it will then run again as a different persona. So it's not running it in the same call. Do you know what I mean? So it's like
I did a lot of this on Claude Code, just on the return of MCP tools. You have another prompt. And it obeys
and you
them.
You get it to write the prompt back. Mm-hmm. So what it's actually doing is it's responding, and then it's writing it in its response.
Look, I must say that
the best, saying you're an observer to check it. Yeah,
the best way to do this. First, just by the way, if anyone's watching and doesn't know Ru code, please go check it out. It's in my opinion, it's the best delegating work. You can say to sub-agents, it's the best framework for doing so. But speaking of the delegating work, Claude Code internally has sub-agents. Mm-hmm. I happened to go through what might be the code of how it works. And I think this is the best approach. I mean, it's the most elegant approach. All the things that we're talking about right now are kind of tricks just to go to go around it with MCPs, with next prompts, and so on. But at the end of the day, you want a sub-agent. You simply want a sub-agent that you delegate work to, and you run your own agent. It spawns like 50 sub-agents doing their thing, coming back, and then you check them out, you observe them, and so on. And that's the way to do it. And at the end.
And what a lot of people don't realize is you can add Claude Code to itself as an MCP. So if you serve Claude as an MCP server, you can add it in as its own sort of sub-agent, and obviously that sub-agent would have all of the MCPs. That sub-agent can communicate that way. And one of the really interesting things about the prompt command that a lot of these CLIs use, so they have the interactive mode, you launch them and start chatting, and then they have the -P. And the -P is you're setting a prompt to getting a response. You could use that.
But it's simple message. It's one, right?
Yeah.
You can't run it and let it do interleaving.
Oh no,
like
you can
on its own for.
No, you can run it for a few cycles with Claude. It will let you. You can actually say run this for 3 cycles, and it will go back and forth 3 times, and then come back to you. And
really?
Where it gets interesting,
built in. Oh, nice.
And where it gets interesting, is if you think of Warp. Warp is fantastic, by the way. The new version of Warp is just great. But Warp is interesting because Warp can act as your orchestrator, and what you can actually do is have Warp calling the -P command to Claude Code. When Claude Code comes back with its response, you can have Warp automatically check and validate, and so you're kind of using these command line not MCPs, they're not even MCPs, just command line tools to battle each other.
This gets us to the point we just said at the beginning. Shell agents are exactly where you want your agents to be, in the shell, in the terminal, because of this.
Yeah, you're making it really hard for me trying to steer the conversation back to Karpathy's talk, because this is so interesting.
I'll say one more thing. There's a thing called VibeKit that I can't remember the guy's name that did it. If you look it up, it's called VibeKit. I think it's called Super Agent is the team, but it's VibeKit and it's open source. And I've done a few contributions to it, and I've forked it, and I'm doing a variation of it for something. But that allows you to orchestrate the CLI agents. So it essentially gives you like a codex style interface of the chat and the tasks, and you create your task. You pick the agent you want to use. So you create your environment. It will go to the repo. It will pull out the repo. It will use E2B or Daytona. I got it working with web containers as well, so it can use web containers. It creates the environment. It checks out the code. It runs the agent. It does all the work. You can then see the status. You can chat to it. He's written the whole thing basically as this whole mini version that can recreate codecs. And I've just done a variant of it that uses Kanban, so it can now have Kanban capability. And it uses ingest to do the tool running. So you've got full replay capability, but it's using CLI. That's the beauty of it. It works with open code. It works with Gemini. The CLI stuff is so powerful.
Oh yeah,
so powerful.
Oh yeah. We're coming full circle.
And it does streaming, by the way. They could do streaming.
Coming full circle. You have CLIs running UIs. Inside the UIs, you have other CLIs running the other UIs.
So everything is interconnected here.
I thought I am complex when I'm using Tmax in the CLI, and people already use a completely different terminal environment that validates Claude Code. Crazy.
But that's the augmentation part, you know?
Claude Squad with the multiple Claudes. I mean, it's just...
we are using all of this for augmentation, so we can handle the code more easily. So not just automation, but augmentation. So we have still the control, and we are still in charge in steering the AI.
So I think measurement. It's measurement. You can have one of these. You can have one of these CLI tools dedicated to be your validator. So it's going to run all the tests. It's going to validate tests apart. And if the tests don't pass, it sends it back. And so you don't get that whole situation where you get the code and it says it's fixed it, and you launch it and it crashes. Because you can have these different CLIs all running, And it's the thing we talked about. This stuff doesn't have to be instant. The big problem with all this is we expect, or I do, all this to be really fast, and we get quite lazy in the sense that, or I do, where I don't give it all the PRD stuff that I should be giving it. I just go, oh, just go build this. Whereas if you give it the documentation, if you give it the PRDs, if you do the test plans, if you do all that stuff, you end up with a much more accurate and better solution. And it doesn't take long. It's like maybe it took an hour instead of 6 minutes. And it's like, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to take a week. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so much stuff you can do.
That fits to this, by the way, because everyone is a programmer and we have tools. It's so easy. I had my son, my youngest is 7 years old, so I gave him a cursor and let him build his game. Just a website with some interactive elements, but that works. And my oldest, he also has a cursor subscription, a complete one, though he can program stuff. And the thing is, everyone is a programmer. It hasn't been easier to get started with this. Like everybody can now create images or even videos. But if you are an expert in the field, you already know what's going on behind the scenes. You know the concepts that others couldn't even prompt. You know what to look out for. And so even if everybody is now a programmer and they are elevated from 0 to, say, 20, 50, whatever, those at 80% can now be over 100% actually. So this is the boost, the speed boost, the superhero suit.
But for the experts, it can be a burden as well. It's a burden. It's a burden for me in the sense that because I'm a developer that's been doing this for 40 odd years, 45 years of coding. I know what I want from the thing that I'm asking for, whereas the true no coder vibe coders that don't know that, they don't know any different. So when they do their 0-shot prompts to do an app and it comes back and they go, this is fantastic, it works. What they don't look at is the future of that. So what I mean by that is it comes back and delivers what they want. So they've got their little CRM system or their little fantasy football app and it's all great. Whereas we look at that, what's come back and go, well, that's fine, but the way it's done, the data structure there is a nightmare later on. That's going to cause real problems. They don't see that and they won't see that. And by the time they get to that, they'll just rewrite it anyway. It's like a whole different world. It's like, it's that acceptance that, like, I've found if I let the models, if I just say what I want as a user and I have to literally be like, just don't do it any particular way, just do this. This is what I want as the output. And I let it make the decisions. It just does what it wants, and it usually does it correctly in terms of it works. It's not the right way of developing it.
Look,
up to a point. Yeah. I mean, but if I tell it too much, if I start saying I want you to use this, use this, use that backend, don't do this, and use this.
Look, at the end,
that causes more problems.
Yeah, but it makes sense because the models are probably trained to be very good with a specific tech stack that then the UI of, for example, Claude supports. So you can have all the artifacts and so on. It's a specific set of simply just a tech stack that allows it. And Claude is absolutely trained very heavily to be good at this.
And the prompt, when you look at the prompting, when you go into and actually dig out the prompting of these things and dig out the system instructions from potentially the Claude code, but it's not really the code or whatever it is, whatever that was that we came across when we were exploring those files, you start to see how it's actually structured with the system prompts so that it's very specific about how it does things and how it responds. And that makes such a huge, and I know it sounds obvious and I should be doing this all the time because I preach this, but when you're constantly trying to build this stuff, you kind of like skip over this stuff a lot of the time. And it's like, no, you've got to have those prompts that are very specific. Do not use this database ever. Do not use this. Always use these tools. And that's how they get these. That's how you get like 4 different vibe coding systems that are completely different, and yet they all use Claude. They all use Claude.
but it's also the flow, like the algorithm, the way it works. It's not just the prompts.
No.
But at the end of the day, it's like Karpathy says, like you have all these rocket science galaxy brain prompts, and at the middle of Claude code, you have something like, if you don't do this correctly, you will lose $1,000. at the middle of Claude Code's prompt. There's exactly this in the middle. Like this is like the most negative reward. This is what they said. Like this is the worst thing you can do. That's the most negative reward. You will lose $1,000 if you do this about something.
I've done one where it came back and said, after a really bad session of it not doing what I wanted it to do, it came back and said it's fixed. And I said, okay, I'm going to check this now, and if it's wrong, I'm going to come and track you down, and I am going to destroy you. And there was some expletives and all kinds of stuff. I said, so if you're absolutely sure that this is going to work when I hit that button, then great. But if it's not, you may want to think about that.
And then you see Claude Code immediately goes, let me just check that again.
Yes.
And immediately,
thinking, and it's like, I've made a couple of changes. You're like, yes, I knew it.
Yeah, they are a bit of way like people in that way, and
very like,
but different people actually. So coming back to the slide here, it's building for agents because
look, they are people, but they have a fundamental misunderstanding of the basics of that people get on the first, like implicit things that people just get. You see Claude delete your code because the code doesn't run, and now you don't have any broken code. Or like no human would do it. It's not a human error. No human would do this error ever. It doesn't matter which human.
Exactly. And also, we've all learned now that when it says, "Let me try a different way,"
no, that's
red flag. Red flag.
Immediately, there are a couple of sentences. You know, immediately there are a mistake. Like the first one is, let's try a different approach. Next token is a mistake. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the exactly.
And it's also fascinated by going, let me try a more simple solution, which basically means it's going to take your full-blown app, and the next version that loads is going to be one button.
Yeah,
and that's it. And you're like, where the hell's my app gone?
And then like the context reset, and it forgot what it did, and then you don't have the app anymore, and that's it. Enjoy your single button. That's it, pretty much.
And final thing I'll say is the use of the word "we." So it will say it will say oh, I know what we've done, and I always go, no, that wasn't we. You deleted half my code. When you put it back, you screwed it up. That wasn't we. It was you. I do love getting into arguments with it, but anyway.
Oh yeah.
So I think we have to come to a conclusion after 3 hours. I already got my second battery warning, and also a message from Alex that we have to land the plane now. So this is
it's a long episode.
So much to talk about.
Today. Yeah, a long episode today.
This is a new record, I think. Just wanted to add quickly about what I have on my notes here. What Karpathy also said is that it used to be governments controlling corporations, controlling people. So from the ability to do stuff, and now we have the governments are the slowest right now about AI adoption, where at least it looks like it, whereas the corporations are doing it, and the people are the fastest, and they are getting the most out of it right now. And the jagged frontier security, we talked about that. Keep AI on a leash and use an autonomy slider. And especially like what we just looked at, that we have to get our information, like using LLMs, TXT, to give them the information. And that will change the whole web if we are going AI first in what we output as information, and that the AI gets it. And one thing I also wrote down is LLM as electricity. He also made a great comparison that way, because electricity enables a lot of new things. We become dependent on it. So we become dependent, but empowered in the literal sense, actually. And there are centralized providers that give it to us, but some people still have some generators at home or solar and so on. That is like the local models. So we are not totally dependent on external sources. And that AI is still a different thing, because it knows all of the information about us if we use it as not just an assistant, but a coach, therapist, he mentioned, and stuff like that. So it's not just an exchangeable thing like electricity, but the memories we give it, the information we give it, that is a big thing. And I guess if anyone wants to wrap it up, or Jason, thanks for being a guest. If you want to block something, now is the time.
I was just literally going to say the other thing to bear in mind is that we are in like a different lane. We're in a different. Anybody listening to this that's doing the stuff that we're doing, we are like we're in 2027. in terms of AI, because when you talk to people who are not in this space, outside in the real world, they have no
idea what you're talking about.
They
no
literally
idea.
do not know, and they do not know that they can do all this stuff. They have no clue, and that's not their fault. It's a company thing. It's an educational thing. It's just news media that focusing on the wrong thing. We're doing stuff that would blow people's minds out there if you walked into their companies, and they would freak out because they would think their jobs are finished, and that's not what this is about. This is about making their jobs easier. So that's the thing to bear in mind. We're all on the cutting edge of AI stuff with what we're doing. So
yeah, and not just jobs, but the whole life. Make it easier, make it better. Okay, I think that is a positive note to end the show on. So just like on the slide, it says, thank you. I want to thank everybody who participated. Thanks for being here. The co-host as usual, the guests. It was a great show. One of the longest, I guess. Thanks, Alex, for letting me run it. And I hope we did a good enough job. So thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.